1. I've been betrayed. Translated by End. A poison that neutralized the mana in the blood vessel, recited the blonde, middle-aged Emperor Ragnar Green River. He was the history's first emperor to have united the continent under his rule. The poison's effect lasts for several minutes at most. For you, that is. He was close friend with humanity's first 8th class magician, Ian Page. Together, the two childhood friends mark on the world created numerous songs, planted countless poems, and written scores of epics. Though it was still true, till, at least today. Still, if I try blend some other poison. For what reason? The 8th class magician, Ian, who had returned to his hometown to spend his remaining life in quiet solitude, spoke as he swallowed the thick blood in his mouth. Do you not know already? The Emperor's voice was surprisingly unconcerned. Even though he had fed a deadly poison to his friend of several decades. Your strength, that power has been no help for the days after the unification. In wartime it may have been different, but right now, it is something that causes unease. Those words you spoke back then. Doubtless, it was all true. The unfathomable power that could easily wipe out a minor nation single-handedly. That was the power of the 8th Circle magician. As long as Ian Page lives as an ally to the Empire, that fact alone is enough to light the fire of rebellion. Therefore, I shall go back to my hometown and live the rest of my life in penitence. I am sure you said it in such lines. Fear entered the Emperor's eyes. Of all things, why fear? The one who had ingested poison was Ian. Do you know, Ian? I do not fear a rebellion. No matter what, rebellions are a work of man. This is within the scope of man's understanding. But you, what about the power you possess? Is this the work of man? Do you surely see this power as something beyond the ken of man? Ian dearly wanted to respond. This power was what made you emperor. That this very power shaped the unification of the whole continent. The power that was maintaining the very peace right now. Cough. Ian could not project his voice any longer. The very counterflow to his blood was difficult to cope with. I am afraid. Afraid of Ian Page. Afraid of the 8th class magician. My old friend. Damn it. Yes, I am maddened by fear of my old friend. Me, my kingdom, you are a savage monster that can take it all from me. How so can I let such monster live? The Emperor, exposing his bout of madness to the world, stopped his soliloquy and looked toward his dying friend, Ian Page. Sorrowful but satisfied, the Emperor's expression was difficult to read. By all means, do not forgive my actions. That was the end of the Emperor's words. As he left the cottage, a fire erupted all around. Did he think that the poison was not enough? Bastard! Ian meandered in his thoughts. The Emperor. His old friend Ragnar Green River's transformation. His decision to leave for the countryside. He thought if he was out of sight, the situation would have become better. It seems I was too complacent. Ian could have never imagined it would have come to this. He could have never imagined the depth of madness the Emperor fell into. But from his bosom, Ian took out an object. At first glance, it looked like an ornate dirk. Decorated from the tip of the blade to the handle with jewels and engravings. Rather than a bladed tool, it looked more like a decorative piece. Surururung. Even then, the sound of its unsheathing said otherwise. Just the sound told of its sharpness. It seems like I wasn't the only one complacent, Ragnar. Engraved letters covered the blade of the dirk completely. So small were the letters, that it could not be read by the naked eye. This is the repentance I have desired. The blood on his hands, he wanted to wash off what little he could wash off with this. For the numerous that dies with my magic, for them, I would lead my life in repentance. All of it was true. Only the method was different. Surpassing humanity's first 6th class, 7th class, and even reaching the 8th class, the unprecedented archmage Ian. Wasting away the years praying was something that could not fill Ian's bowl. Setting back everything as it once was. The moment he decided to leave for the countryside, Ian had decided to research time magic with all his might. If it was possible to turn back time, it was possible to reset everything. And make better choices. Of course, it was not easy. Rather, it was close to impossible. There were only unproven, unfinished theories. This will possibly be the very first test. The time to agonize perfection and improvement had long passed. Even if there were an adverse reaction, what more than death awaited? No, in the end, he had to die. To save what little mana I have, there is no other way. There was only one place that the poison had yet to affect him. The place that regulated all mana within the body, the small core within his heart. Mana heart. Puoog. At that very place, he pierces the formulaic dirk, to drain all possible power source that was called mana. Wung. Before long, a brilliant blue light engulfs Ian. R.A. Husu. Ikiro. Simultaneously, Ian had started his chant. One by one, words were spurted out painfully. By no means did this sound came through his voice. Nor was this a common chant. Ro. Kyubarugato. The dragon that was commonly known as the initiator of magic. They had created the ancient language, dragon chant. Zen. Shinigas. In the heart of the mountain, when the echoes of the reverberating dragon chant was about to come to a close. The dirk crumbled into dust and scattered. The intense blue light gradually hid the trace of the last vestige of the great archmage Ian Page. Revolution of the 8th Class Mage. 230 years back to the past. Translated by End. Uurg. As Ian was regaining conscience, the very first thing he felt was nausea. The nausea was so bad, he felt like vomiting. What happened? Hurriedly, he searched his chest. Blood, wounds, pain, he did not feel any of it. He was certain something unusual happened. Ian, what is wrong with you? Ian's heart skipped a beat. Even nausea disappeared for the moment. Such unforgettable, familiar voice. That memorable voice, that voice he missed so terribly, tickled his left ear. Mo, mother. His mother that departed long ago. The voice of Vanessa Page. Never could Ian have known that a day would come that he would meet her again. Did I succeed? Or did I fell into world of the dead? Clasping his mother's hand tightly, Ian looked around. Next. Jess from Lloyd Village. Lloyd? There is a village named Lloyd. The village is very far apart and rural. Humph. No matter, go in. Is there really, a true mage inside? Well, you will know if you go in, ain't it? Ah. Yes. A row of thousands of children seemed to have lined up for this. Mixed in this line was Ian and Vanessa. Controlling the surging crowds were the rough, ugly-looking soldiers from the Lord's castle. A flag with an ivory tower symbol fluttered atop the pure white tent. Drinking in the scenery, Ian could judge his current situation. I seem to have succeeded. His small hands were further proof of his success. He had travelled exactly 30 years back. Back before the continent was unified under Green River's name. He could guess the exact number of years because of the current situation. All the children were lined up to be examined, every region was enforced to do the mana reaction test. It was mandatory test for every child who turned 10 years old. Before coming back, Ian was 40 years old. By the consequence of logical deduction, he had travelled back 30 years into the past. I have come back further than I thought possible. Not 10, not 20, but 30 years. Of course, this was not a bad result. No, it was rather fantastic. I only tried to erase the blood on my hand. The reason he had delved into dragon chant, his pursuit of time magic, was to erase any evidence of the destruction he wrought with his magic. To pull out the root and branch of history, and change it completely. Such was his vindication before he was poisoned by the Emperor. Well, I simply can't let it end again with a knife in my back. By the pretext of being friend, he had made many concessions. By the virtue of being loyal, he had been more than tolerant. This had led to the unlimited misery. His best of friend, Emperor Ragnar, turning traitor. Being used of his life, in the end, all it led to was his death. This life I have been given, I shall not be led by anyone. For such conviction to be proven true, he had to find it again. The power of the 8th class mage, an advance above that power. Why not? For he had already walked that path once. He would run toward it in a breath of a moment and aim much further forward. Next. As Ian came to the resolution of the heart, it was his turn for the monoreaction test. I will be back. Ian tried to comfort his mother, whose face was full of worry. Walking forward to the soldier in front of the tent, he spoke, Ian, from Mogrian village. Mogrian. Ah, are you the son of our Vanessa? Ian's mother was the kitchen maid in the lord's castle. For a kitchen maid, she was beautiful to a fault that many soldiers fawn over her. They saw her as an easy target, as she was a widow and a kitchen maid. Go ahead and don't bother the mage with useless questions. The soldier's eye was clammy as he had his sight focused on Ian's mother. Something Ian could have never noticed in his youthful ignorance. I should probably fix his gaze very soon. Vowing, Ian entered the tent. In the tent was a young delegate mage and 3 knights, who stood guard. Sir Aaron, how many children are left? I believe you still have to spend several hours on this task. Hey! Was it because the mage had already tested several hundred children? The mage's voice was full of tiredness. This brings me back to the good old times. During his time as an apprentice mage, Ian was dispatched to conduct one of these tests. Though he wasn't as fatigued as the mage in front of him, it must have been due to the village being rural and quiet. The situation here must be different. This was Mogrian province. One of the 4 largest regions in the empire, it was a so-called Great Province. The region was vast enough that there must be thousands of children who had to take the test. Right, boy. Come closer. With a gentle voice, the mage called Ian. Other than him being a mage, he seems to be a well-mannered noble. Though Ian was a mage, the arrogance of most mages knew no bound. If they could be worse than the nobles, then they did it. Mages were precious. So rare were they, that most common folks could hardly meet one in their lifetime. With the value of a mage, their headcount were small in itself. Among the mages, 90% stayed in first class for the rest of their lives. The authority of the first class mage was the next best thing to being a minor noble. From 4th class onward, they did not even fear the power of the greater nobility. They do say the number of mages is proportional to the strength of the nation. Therefore, they conducted the mandatory monoreaction test. To find and nurture just one more mage for their nation. For now, won't you bow your head for a bit? The first attribute, mana brain, a part of the brain that took charge in manifesting the magic. This attribute could not be acquired, the person was inherently born with it. I will prod your head slightly with mana. You could feel dizzy, but it's momentary, so do not worry. Speaking as such, the mage laid his hand on Ian's head. As he describes, Ian started to feel dizzy. This was an obvious outcome, a side effect of the mana brain being stimulate. Good. Now, turn so that your back is facing me. The second attribute, mana heart. The place that stored, generated, and circulated mana, an all-inclusive organ. The place that he pierced the spell engraved dirk. The test ended after the proof of the existence of mana heart. If both attributes were proven, the examinee was given the immediate privilege of attending the Magic Academy. Like in the past, Ian did not feel confident. He felt something was lacking. Why did you stand? Ian was hesitant seeing the mage hurrying about. As if it reminded him of something, the mage began spewing out words. Ah, I just discovered your mana brain. What does it mean? It means that life is about to turn about right in front of your nose. But only if you have mana heart. So hurry about, and turn around. The mage never did imagine that a reaction would appear this year. Hearing the part about his life is about to turn about, Ian hurriedly turned about to proceed with his mana heart test, but he stopped as he had a higher ambition than a simple change in life. A simple academy admission is not enough. Ian needed the best possible head start, right from the starting line. While he was lacking in mana, that did not mean there were no other means. Should he be a bit more bold? Mr. Mage. Decided, Ian opened his mouth. His childish voice still felt strange. There is something I want to show you. A letter? Well, something like that. Yes, there were many like that. Children bringing letters or gifts as respect. The even-minded Ian also had experienced such. Without a doubt, this noble also had similar situations. Nothing like that. But, what Ian wanted to show was something completely different. Something that will increase his value exponentially. Magic. What else? Hudush. In Ian's hand, a small fist-sized fire erupted. A basic magic belonging to the first class, fireball. Fireball. At the mage's reaction, Ian was satisfied. In his other hand, Ian made a tear-shaped water ball. This time, it was aqua ball. Double casting. The mage's eye popped wide open. The knights watching nearby was of similar disposition. This small boy was using magic? Not having entered the very door-sill of the academy, this boy was using magic during his mana reaction test? And on top of that, double casting? This was positively a huge incident with no such precedent in history. I don't really know. The mage's face was longing for answers, and Ian looked straight at the mage's face without flinching. Without dropping one syllable, Ian continued. It just started working one day. What? What preposterous nonsense was this boy speaking? This boy, he was suspicious. Perhaps, did someone teach you such skill? Not really. I don't recall something like that happening. Really? The mage cast interrogation magic as he asked his questions. The magic checked the instinctive biological response such as the spike in heartbeat or the dilation of the pupil. Think clearly before you answer. Any lies can have you declared for treason. What I mean is you, your family, even your neighbors could be executed. The mage's words were not those to incite fear. With the benefits beyond one's imagination, so too were mages' existence strictly governed. Every mage was under the administration of the Empire and the Ivory Tower. Every unregistered mage was considered a traitor. So too, was teaching magic without permission. This extended to dedicated organizations set up to observe their every actions. What reason do I have to lie to you? Ian knew the reality of it all better than anyone else. He even acknowledged the interrogation magic that the mage invoked. But he still carried on with his falsehood. Because I truly did not learn it from anyone. The basic invocation of mana and several magic spells. All of it, he had realized through self-study in his previous life. All of it, in exactly 3-month period between passing the mana reaction test and waiting for the new season of Magic Academy. Peerless genius doesn't sound so bad. The first Ian was a certified genius. Was he not the first 8th class mage humanity ever seen? Just that in his previous life, he was an ordinary genius. In this new life, he would be a legendary existence among the mages, a genius among genius that would associate him with the first mage. Hoo-hoo! The mage's mouth split open and out of it, laughter came. There were so many suspicious angles with the story the child was spewing. But the problem was, the interrogation magic was not working. Could the child somehow control his basic instincts intentionally? To fool the interrogation magic? But that's preposterous. The mage could affirm, such act was impossible. Only spies who assimilated daily and the utmost extreme training could be this unresponsive. There are two conclusions to this. Either this boy was history's most premier spy, or he possesses talent of the first mage. A legend any mage would have heard at least once. To the common folks, they believed magic had its root in the dragons. For the mages, they believed in the first mage. Both side is beyond my wildest imagination. As the mage's inmost thought was beginning to skew to the later. Please stop this. Shoo, shoo. Don't you know there are important people inside? The sound of squabble could be heard outside. From the soldier guarding the flap of the tent, and Ian's mother. A place where blood can't be seen, one. Mother. Without any hesitation, Ian rushed out of the tent. The three knights and conducting mage followed. Shoo. Shoo. Stop playing hard to get. I know you miss the touch of a real man. What? What humiliating words. Seems he laid his hands on mother's body. Come on, have a listen. Don't you feel lonely at night after being a widow for 7 years? There are plenty men who will sneak into your bed if you just let the door open. Hey! The soldier who was sexually insulting mother was stunned. Of course, because of the mage and knights. Seems he doesn't care at all about Vanessa's son, Ian. What is this ruckus? One of the knights, who is named Aaron, asked. There was a natural-born solemnness in his low voice. It is nothing, sir. This degraded kitchen maid dared to look inside the tent, I was scolding. Degraded. Ian cut into his excuse. How dare you? Don't you see I'm talking to nobles here? Now he started rebuking Ian. Totally different reaction from the soldier compared to the attitude he just showed to the mage and knights. Well, I understand that's how the rank system works. Then. Mr. Mage. Am I mage now? The mage can't give a straight answer to the sudden question of Ian. Can this little boy be called a mage? Far from officially being enrolled as an mage, he hasn't even received admission to the academy. Officially, he is not a mage yet. However, he self-studied the management of mana. Furthermore, he is able to cast first-class magic. The Royal and the Ivory Tower will be alerted to adopt this boy into the Empire, by any means necessary. The boy who contains unfathomable talents. Literally, it is only a matter of time. It didn't take long for the conducting mage to make a decision. He is a mage. Official confirmation by the conducting mage. Suddenly, all the eyes focused on Ian. Although, Ian stood solid, without any emotional swaying. He continued the conversation. So what is my rank now? Equivalent to Empire nobles. How about my mother? Same. If you wish. Now Ian looked at the knights. Did you hear that? My mother and I, from now on, are noble. Sururung. While Aaron, who is sensible enough to understand Ian's intention, drew the first sword. Sururu. Sururung, asterisk. 2 other knights drew their swords too. Insulting a noble is applicable to instant execution. Aaron's brutal declaration reached the soldier's ear. That was what Ian intended. Hey! The soldier still didn't understand the situation. After he rolled his eye few times, finally he was able to conclude this situation. So, the boy is a mage. Vanessa is the mother of the boy. So that means. E/N, just a moment of shocking revelation. Not just shocked, but he started to drivel on the ground. Please spare my life. He quickly bowed down, hammering his head on the ground. Now, the apologies were targeted to Ian, neither knight nor mage. The tide has turned. Please, Mercy, then I will. Why do you apologize to me? I will never forget this grace. I beg your pardon. Ian indicated to his mother and spoke quietly. It is not me who you should apologizing to. Ah. The soldier now turned his body to Vanessa, and repeated what he just did to Ian. Please, please forgive me. Please just give me a chance. He totally lay on the ground, hammering his head into the ground, begging for his life with a servile voice. Ian. You don't need to do this much. He was so desperate that even mother who was receiving the apology felt uncomfortable. Actually, even if he just said sorry, she would accept it. Now I remember. Right. Gentle and kind, that was my mother. If I execute him in front of her, she will struggle with nightmares. So, it is not a good time to execute him, not now. I'll shed blood, in a place where blood can't be seen. The promise of my second life was carved deep in my heart. For now, my mother is the priority. Suddenly, Ian felt sorry for his mother. In his former life, he couldn't protect his mother. He was immature, didn't understand much. At that time, I was too young. In his former life, Ian was a newbie, just entered into the academy. He didn't tell anyone that he self-studied the fundamental management of mana and first-class magic. Actually, he couldn't. I was afraid, since I was young. Blinded by the fear that he might be rebuked about it. So he had spent another whole year on magic theory class with other kids, in his former life. As an ordinary mage apprentice, neither superior, nor inferior. Of course, no privileges was given to her like nobles. Mother had left Mogrian village. She no longer needed to work as a kitchen maid, but that was all. She spent 1 year alone. She didn't get to enjoy any luxuries. After 1 year, when he finally became a first-class magician, he finally received the rank as high as nobles. Then mother passed away from an illness. Even if she had a greatly talented son, she never had a chance to be treated as a noble. However, this time, history will be changed. Hugh. After recalling the bitterness of his former life, he sits squatted in front of the soldier. Listen. A whisper only the soldier can listen. I exactly know how rubbishes like you think about my mother, saying dirty jokes about her. Then he made an eerie face at him. No one would have imagined such an expression came from an 12-years-old kid. So what you saw, and heard today, relay it to the bastards like you. The soldier nodded crazily, as if he going to break his neck. From his shaking 2 eyes, his desire of survival was reflected to Ian. I will watch you. Then, Ian stood up and said to knights. I think this is enough. At Ian's words, knights sheathed their swords. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for my life. Although Ian stopped the execution, the soldier kept begging his life, to avoid Ian's reconsideration, just in case. Is that little boy a mage? The son of an kitchen maid? Shut your mouth. Didn't you see that the soldier almost lost his neck? People started whispering to each other, and it seems there was no sign to the end of it. Today's story might be spoken by people for a while. Mr. Mage, are there any more tests left? Hey? And no. It is all done. Mr. Mage, if you'll excuse me, I better return to my home. My mother seems quite frightened. Yes, as you wish. Ah. Wait, hold on a second. The mage suddenly stopped Ian and asked the knight, Aaron. Sir Aaron, please escort the boy. I will contact you later through the crystal orb. Aaron obeyed the order without question. It couldn't be refused, and also it was his duty. Okay then, I better go now, Mr. Mage. Ian left the area by escorting his mother. A kitchen maid's son, escorted by a royal knight. Due to such a rare sight, people can't take their eyes off them. What a surprising boy, in many ways. Soon, the report of the conducting mage was sent to the royal, and the ivory tower. A place where blood can't be seen, too. Damn, bastard! At midnight. The soldier who almost lost his neck. Jonathan shouted in the small inn located at the corner of the province castle. He was already fully drunk, with the soldiers who were on their day off. How dare he? I will show him who I am. Calm down, buddy. I'm afraid that you are gonna lose your neck for good. Shut up. Whose side are you on? He raised his voice, neglecting his colleague's advice. We don't take any side, we are just scared that the sparks may fly in our faces. Just take care of yourself, and forget about it for now. The one you are trying to fight against is a mage, buddy. A mage? Humph. Take care of myself? A mage. Gulguk gulguk. Jonathan emptied the whole jug quickly. Bullshit. He smashed the jug on the ground. Seems he didn't keep Ian's warning in his mind. Damn. You just ruined my mood. Hey innkeeper. I'll pay for it later. Sir, it has already been a month that you... Do you think I'm a thief? Hey? I told you I'll pay for it. Seems he hasn't paid for a month. As a small business operator, they couldn't dare to anything against a province veteran soldier. Sigh. After Jonathan left, the innkeeper sighed deeply. The other soldiers also shook their heads. Humph, he boasted a lot about connections with a noble, now look at him. Even the noble he bootlicked won't be able to deal with the mage. Are you serious? Not just that small noble he bootlicked, but even the great landlord has to crawl under the ivory tower. This time, Jonathan is in big trouble, ha ha ha. Everyone now started to run Jonathan down. Jonathan must have had a bad reputation between colleagues, too. By the way, Vanessa, that chick now got the jackpot. I was wondering Tiga first time when she fell in love with some ugly man who looked like an oak, who knew he gave birth to a mage. If I were female, I would have rushed to him as well. What was that oak-like man's name? He had a sir in his name as well, didn't he? Page, ah. Fran Page. Oh yeah. You brainy. From Jonathan, now stories moved to Ian. Was that man a mage as well? Stupid man, do you think a mage always has a mage son? It's not. In most case the son is just ordinary man. Are you joking me? How do you even know that? Ahem, there are always ways to know. While discussion of the fat soldier had started, Jonathan was walking street fully inebriated. I will do any means necessary. Even walking straight seems hard for Jonathan now. In front of that brat. I'll, with Vanessa, burp. He now hiccuped and shouted loudly. He 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 he. Jonathan started making a lusty face. Then he stopped at an riverside. He wanted to pee in it. Why is it uneasy to untie? Do you underlook me as well? Now he started to rebuke his waist belt as well. Well, what a shame to him. Burp first was that mage, now you make me beg. Didn't I tell you before? I will be watching you. A sudden voice came from his back. It was that moment that Jonathan looked back urgently. Paralyze. Jonathan's body paralyzed and he couldn't move his body anymore. He can't look back further, can't run away. Only thing he could do was breathing. You won't able to move for a while. That's how this magic works. The voice of that little boy was enough to understand situation. Again, the mage, Ian. What was it again you said? What will you do with my mother, in front of me? Ugh. Jonathan struggled against the magic. A vein popped out on his forehead. Here is the story of Jonathan. One day, he was insulted by the son of degraded kitchen maid. He drank that night to forget the humiliation. He drank until he became totally unconscious, and there were witnesses at the inn. It was the story of the Jonathan today. Even though he lost control, he wanted to pee and his body instinct led him near the riverside. However, the riverside was slippery, and there was Noon who can help him. Indeed, it looks quite dangerous, for a fully drunken man. Ian finished the story, then pushed Jonathan into river. Splash! Jonathan fell into river and his head reached the river first. If Ian left him like that, he will drown. I thought about it a lot. Should I shed blood again? The reason I researched the dragon chant was to erase the blood on my hand. If I can turn time back, I swear that I will not shed innocent blood, make my own unregretful choice. The voice was small, Jonathan might not be able to hear this story. But actually, probably that's not I wanted. Now I can see that thanks to you. Ian continued his story. Maybe, it is now his soliloquy. I found that I haven't wanted to erase the blood. But just don't want others to see the blood on my hands. That's what I didn't like. Another face of every war hero. A stigma, that innocent victims were fled in his massacre. Now, Jonathan's struggle nearly stopped. By any means, do not forgive my action. A man who poisoned me once told me this as well. What was the Emperor's thought? Now, Ian was able to guess it slightly. Ian returned to the inn, not his house. The size of a little cottage the mom and son had was too small to host Aaron, who has a big body. So they decided to live in a nearby inn. Ian and his mother used the same room and Aaron stayed next door. I feel a headache. Ian safely arrived to the inn. He had felt the headache since he come back to the inn. It was a reaction due to insufficient mana in his body. Didn't expect one paralyze spell to have emptied my mana. He expected he won't be able to use it twice, though. A little boy's body, who hadn't started mana breath yet. Quantity of mana in this whole body must be small. There was still a limit for Ian's body, although it has potential to become 8th class later. It's fortunate the reaction ended as a headache. As the red heart cycles the blood flow, the mana heart stacks, and cycles the mana. Of course, there is a limit to the stacking of mana as well. Mages called it mana pool. What Ian only needs to improve now was his mana pool. He still remembers all the spell mechanisms. I better start mana meditation from now on. There were a few ways to increase mana the pool permanently. Mana breath was one of the most standard ways to increase it. A special way of breathing that stimulates the mana heart, which is located inside of the heart. Specifically, the mana breath that Ian invented was superior. Much more efficient compared to Academy's mana breath. I often imagined, what if I invented this mana breath earlier? He invented this mana breath when he was 34. Even starting the new breath late, it allowed him to grow further. What level can I reach from now, this time? Furthermore, an unprecedented genius young mage now goes to the academy. They will support him as much as they can. I can engross many elixirs. In addition, even artifacts. How much stronger can I be? I couldn't even imagine the result. Let's start. Ian sat down. It was necessary to do mana breath to calm down his headache. Ian tried to be as quiet as possible to avoid interrupting his mother's sleep. He can see that her face became well. Would it be because of the brighter future for her only precious son? It seems she forgot about the soldier. That's a relief. First day he time traveled. He felt comfortable and started to focus on the mana breath. Guest to the house of Mogrian, 6. So this is the end of my life. The great landlord, Marcus Mogrian, shook his body sorrowfully. What a shame, death at the hands of goblins. All the nobles and bards would make fun of him and his house. I should have saved my son, Labi, at least. Hunting monsters was just a hobby to him. He had never expected that this hobby would ruin the future of his house. Kiek. He could see the goblin in front of him. It was different from other goblins. It had pink skin, big body, and was skilled in combat. Furthermore, it led these goblins. There was an ambush, and his troops had been defeated by the countless goblins. The province must be informed. He observed hundreds of goblins, and the pink-colored goblin which lead them. They were prey no more. They were like dangerous bandits now. Smash! When he was about to give up on everything, he heard something smashing to the ground. Frost Nova! And then he heard the voice. It sounded like a young boy's voice. Before he fainted, he tried to see who the boy was. He could only see the back of the young boy. That boy must be. Freezing hell has been spread. The valley was filled with the desperate screams of goblins. When he couldn't believe his eyes, the boy looked back. Daddy? Daddy? The voice wasn't the boy's. Then where was it coming from? Daddy? The landlord opened his eyes. He couldn't see the boy, any goblins, or the freezing hell anymore. The familiar room was his bedroom. Margaret! Margaret called her father desperately. Since she saw the fainted daddy's body start to move. Ow, what happened? A question which contained much confusion. Mr. Mage saved you, and brother as well. What about the others? Are they okay? Well, people who were captured by the goblins all survived. However, the soldiers who were assaulted at the very beginning, there were no ways to save them. Even a mage couldn't revive the dead. How long have I been passed out? You have been unconscious for 2 days. We were all worried about you. Bring Hrothgar to me. Hrothgar was the name of the old butler. Hey? But you better meet Mom and brother. I will. But there is something I have to do first. Margaret stopped arguing with him. Instead, she left the room to bring the old butler. That's weird, I haven't seen Margaret this obedient. Some time later, the white-bearded old butler ran into the room. Sir Landlord! Thank God you are well. You must have had a hard time aiding me. No. It was just my duty. I'm just pleased that you woke up and are well. The old butler was enthused. The landlord patted his back. How many have died? Sir. I'm ready. Tell me the number. 12 soldiers, and Sir Lawton. Too many precious lives were sacrificed for his hobby. What would have happened if the goblins wanted to execute everyone when they were assaulted? Everyone who went for the hunt wouldn't have been able to avoid death. That's horrible. The landlord shortly paid silent tribute for the victims. He was a calculative man. However, all of his calculative actions were for his province and the people who lived there. Many loyal people, who spent their life for the province, were dead. He felt the heavy responsibility for that. Okay, has our house awarded the bereaved? Yes. We awarded them with our best. Well done. Ugh. The landlord groaned while nodding his head. His body hadn't recovered yet, he still suffered a headache. The old butler looked at him with worry. While shaking his head, he continued speaking. You said a mage rescued me, was it Mr. Marco? The landlord assumed it was Marco who saved him. He saw a young boy in his memory, but he couldn't figure out if it was just his dream or not. Furthermore, Ian was just a kid. Even if he contained an enormous potential within him. No, sir. Because Mr. Marco left the province for another mission, I requested aid from Mr. Mage. So it wasn't an illusion or dream. He saved us all. Now he realized the freezing hell that he saw was made by Ian. Now he understood all the favor Ian received from the Emperor. I can see. The reason that royals in Ivory Tower wanted him so much. The reason that they ordered House of Mogrian to protect him. Otherwise, other countries or powers will try to take him away. After the era of war ended, it had been 60 years since the world divided to 3 big countries. Each of the 3 countries had been focusing their money and power to raise mages as much as they could. No one knew when the next war would occur. The war which could occur at any time. Even at this moment, each country was spying on the other countries. They won't assassinate him. They will try to persuade him. It was the era of mages. It was mages who will decide the result of the war. Mages of other countries were priority assassination targets. Especially for a mage with great talent. However, Ian was a kid. He was still young enough to be persuaded, before being assassinated. I owe my life to an unimaginably important boy. The landlord opened his mouth after a short pause. So where is Mr. Mage? I want to meet him face to face. It is hard to meet him right now. Why is that? Was he injured severely? No, he is fine. But... The old butler stopped for a while. Then he continued his words with an embarrassed face. He went out for selling. While the landlord was awake in his castle, Ian was talking with other people. At the valley which was once the den of goblins. All of Theseus' corpses are of the finest quality. I haven't seen anything like this. A fat middle-aged man, dressed in luxurious clothes, said to Ian respectfully. It should be. I froze them before they died. That's right. What a wise decision you made. The middle-aged man was a merchant, who operated the biggest trading company in this province, called the Ephorian Trading Company. How much would these be? Ian was trading now. Why waste goblin corpses? If it was left here, it would be rotten after it thawed. It was better to sell it rather than just let it go to waste. Let's see. 621 goblin corpses of the finest quality, and then... Monster bodies were worth a lot. Each part of the body was used by alchemists as precious ingredients. And there were demands for it in other fields as well. Of course, goblin corpses were not expensive. It was a weak and common monster. But this time, the number of corpses were huge. 1 hobgoblin corpse. Wow! I didn't expect to see this corpse in this area, really. Ian also agreed with it. It was very unusual that a hobgoblin appeared here. It needed to be examined later. Anyway, it would be worth at least 1,000 gold. The merchant carefully looked at Ian's face while he mumbled the end of his words. Although Ian was young, he was a mage. A mage who massacred hundreds of goblins alone. He didn't dare to cheat him. It might increase his benefits, but he didn't want to risk his life. Of course, as I said, at least 1,000 gold. Ian hadn't changed his face at all. Was the suggested price unsatisfactory to him? As I said, it's at least. I am satisfied with the price. The price the merchant suggested satisfied Ian. He was just thinking about what he was going to do with the money. Is there? Ian had decided and he continued his word. Is there any good alchemist in this province? What sort of? I am looking for an alchemist who is good at brewing elixirs. Few days ago, Ian didn't consider elixirs to improve his level. Because he hadn't had any money. But now, the situation had changed. Maybe it was impossible to buy the highest quality elixirs, but he would be able to afford a few elixirs with an average level. Of course there is. He lives in the Lloyd village over there. He came from the capital. He said he came to this north side to find a specific rare herb. His name is... The merchant paused to remember the name of alchemist. Letio. He's called Letio. Alchemist Letio. Ian quietly spelled his name. He couldn't remember anyone in his former life. If you wish, I can make contact with him for you. No, thanks. I will visit him myself later. After Ian finished the conversation, he left the valley. Dinner time of Mogrian Castle was about to start. The atmosphere of the province castle was filled with grief. People had died, and the landlord was unconsciousness. I wish he would wake up. The sorrowful heavy atmosphere caused Ian not able to eat his meal properly. Also, he couldn't leave his mother alone, in the castle with such grief. Ian moved towards to the castle quickly. Guest to the house of Mogrian, 7. You should have seen it. Come on, stop. The ice came out of nowhere with a crack sound. Come on, do you know how many times you have already repeated that? Hundreds of goblins screamed. Sigh. It's on another level compared to what I have read in the book. The sky was lit up with the glow of the setting sun. 2 soldiers were guarding the province castle. The one on the left was a scout from the second party who went with Ian. The one on the right was a scout from the first party who was resting. Even the knights were astonished. So you are saying, that they mumbled that is a mage? That's right. The soldier on the right shook his head. He had already heard it many times. He was interested when he heard it for the first time. With the reaction, is it true? Really? What on earth? Amazing. Well, it would have been better if that was all that he had heard. I saved the landlord with him as well. Later, when I retire, I will write a book. The Chronicle of the Mage and the Spear Master. Yet. Can't you feel your heart beating? E/N isn't the Spear Master Roan, cross novel references. The soldier on the left spoke while drumming the ground with his spear. It seems the Spear Master referred to him. The Spear Master? Bullshit. Hey, what's wrong with it? I am really good at using the spear. Do you even know how to write? Hey. I am studying it. Humph. Yeah, right. While the 2 soldiers were talking, someone approached the castle. It was a child with a small body. Mr. Mage. The soldier on the left recognized Ian straight away. As he said, Ian was the great scout comrade who he has been talking about the whole day. Why, you may go in quickly. The landlord has woken up. That was delightful news. At last, Ian could have dinner without any pressure. With a face sporting a smile, Ian stepped into the castle. The servants' faces had changed. The castle was filled with energy, which couldn't be seen until yesterday. The vitality finally came back to the castle. Ah! Mr. Mage. The owner of the voice was the old butler, Hrothgar. You arrived at just the right time. I heard that the landlord woke up while I was coming. Oh, did you? Yes, what a relief. The old butler revealed his happiness. He was the perfect man for being the butler of the house. Will the dinner start at the usual time? Oh, of course. This time, the landlord has asked you to come have supper with him. It seems he has something to say to you. Something to say? Well, of course, Ian saved their lives. Not just the landlord's life, also those of his son, the knights, and the soldiers. It would be rather problematic if there was nothing to say. I will attend the supper. Then, I will send a guide to you, whenever you are ready. Then Ian went back to his room. It was a big room where Ian stayed with his mom. Ian? Did you just arrive? Ian felt relieved just hearing her voice. As always, Vanessa welcomed Ian. Yes, Mom, I am. Suddenly, Ian stopped his words. That dress. Ah, this. By rotating slowly, Vanessa showed the dress to him. The reason that Ian surprised was because of the dress she wore. She had refused to wear the clothes which were presented to her by the house. However, the clothes that she was wearing was the clothing of nobles. She was also wearing jewelry with precious gemstones. Does it look good on me? I am not sure of it. It does, indeed. The beauty of the wearer completed the appearance. There was no doubt. Does it? That's a relief. So, what happened? Well, the little lady chose it for me. Little lady? Yes. Including the jewels. The little lady must have meant the daughter of the landlord, Margaret. Maybe she felt uncomfortable with the clothes I used to wear, didn't she? Well, she must have. She must have felt that way a few days ago. Maybe her mind had changed now. Well, at least she did a good job here. Ian looked his mother for a moment. Her age was 27. She couldn't be said to be young, but neither was she old. If she was born as a noble, she would be the star of the noble social party. It became obvious when he saw his mother fully dressed up. Ian was the greatest mage of the continent. So he had received proposals from many ladies, beauties who were called the flowers of the empire. However, he could remember only a small number of the girls who were as beautiful as his mother, E/N, winsiest. I have no idea how I, the child of this beauty, was born with this appearance. Ian realized the weirdness of bloodlines. His father was once nicknamed Orc. While considering that, it was lucky that he was born as a man with an average appearance. He remembered the gold he had earned by selling the goblin corpses. He had planned to use every bit of it to buy elixirs. I better leave some gold. He thought it would be better to leave some money to buy some presents for his mother. He could earn more money whenever he wanted, by hunting more monsters. I think you better dress like that from now on. I don't think I'm suited to it. Come on, Mom, I can guarantee that you should feel proud of yourself. What do you mean saying that I should feel proud? There is a saying that a genius already knows he is genius, and a beauty already knows she is a beauty. Rather, it is weird if they don't realize it themselves. As you know, we are the genius and the beauty, aren't we? This little angel. Are you showing off yourself because you're a mage now? She gently pulled Ian's cheek with an embarrassed face. Ian didn't try to avoid his mother's hand, like a normal 10-year-old boy. At least, for Mother. She must have felt weird about Ian, who had suddenly changed. He wanted to be a cute child for her this time. Knock knock. While Ian's cheek was being pulled, someone knocked on the door. Come in. As Ian shouted quickly, his mom released his cheek quickly. Mr. Mage, Mrs. Page. A maid of the house opened the door. She greeted them gently. Dinner is ready. Are you ready to go? Yes, we are. Ian and Vanessa followed the servant. At the restaurant, the great landlord and his family, every one of them were waiting for Ian. The food hadn't come out yet. As the old butler informed, it seemed the landlord had wanted to talk with him first before the dinner. Oh! Welcome, welcome! With a welcoming face the landlord greeted them. Unlike when he greeted them at the beginning, this time he truly welcomed them. How are your wounds? Thanks to many others who prayed for me, they are all right. That's good to hear. The grace I received, I really want to thank you for that. With a gentle attitude, the great landlord thanked Ian. His son, Labi, also bowed to Ian. You have saved the present, future and foundation of the Mogrian house. If I repay this grace poorly, I shouldn't be called a great landlord of the empire. The present of the house meant the great landlord. The future meant his heir. The foundation meant the knights and soldiers. I have thought about it. At first, I had thought about money and land, which is quite a generous repayment. However, I realized it would all be meaningless things to you. The landlord paused shortly, while breathing roughly. He still suffered from his wounds and the time he had been unconscious. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you have already overcome the human's common desire, or some nonsense like that. What I meant was that, as a mage, you can obtain it whenever you want. It was true. Even Ian had spoken similarly to Margaret. Margaret's body shook a little bit as she remembered what Ian said. So, the conclusion I made was. The landlord spoke while putting something on the table. It was an old ordinary wood box. Please open it. The landlord looked at Ian, which encouraged him to open it. Ian already knew the content of it. Mogrian ring. He could realize when he looked at the box. It was the box which contained the Mogrian ring. It was a wise choice to lend it once. After the event on the Mogrian mountain ended. Ian returned the ring as he promised, while saying that it helped him a lot. I was thinking about mentioning it later, anyway. He didn't expect them to hand it over before he even asked. With satisfaction, Ian opened the box. As he expected, the Mogrian ring was set in the box. I already heard the story. You said that you can feel mana from the ring. I realized that it wasn't an ordinary ring. I hadn't known. I just regarded it as an old ring. The great landlord paused. He looked at the ring, the heirloom of the house, for a moment. What kind of power the ring contains? Is it helpful power to you, Mr. Mage? Being honest, I may dare want to steal it. Is it that much? That's good to hear. As he was satisfied, he nodded. The ring, I will give it to you. Giving the heirloom of the house to an outsider? It wasn't common that happened. The heirloom included the history of the house. Although, none of the family members of the house seemed to be shocked. They must have agreed with it before. But, isn't it the heirloom of your house? Please regard it as a sign. Sign of what? It is the sign that from now on, the mage, Ian Page, we now serve you as the eternal guest of the Mogrian house. This was an astonishing promise that the great landlord had just made. Eternal guest wasn't just a simple metaphor. It was the eternal pledge that a noble of the empire must keep. Would you take this offer? The great landlord asked very seriously. Everyone was waiting for Ian's choice. Ian started to think. This pledge is not just a simple repayment. Because Ian knew the characteristic of the great landlord of Mogrian. At the valley, he must have seen the enormous potential within Ian. With this present, he was trying to make a strong bond with Ian. It is not a bad offer. Honestly, it was quite a sweet offer. One day in the future, it will help Ian. Ian stretched out his finger. Instead of answering, he wore the Mogrian ring, the ring of the pledge. We, the House of Mogrian. As the landlord saw Ian wearing the ring, he recited the pledge of the eternal guest. We will always welcome Ian Page, we promise that we will gladly stand by his side whenever he needs our help. This promise will continue from generation to generation, and from their generation to generation, in the name of the most northern stream of Green River. After the pledge, Ian became the eternal guest, to the great house of the Northern Territory, the shield of the Empire, the most northern stream of Green River, the House of Mogrian. It was the first step of the mage, Ian Page, which he had never achieved in his former life. Editor's notes. If anyone gets that Spearmaster reference, they get an internet cookie. The very antithetical alchemist, 1. After Ian was declared as an eternal guest of the Mogrian house, the great landlord immediately arranged a convoy for Ian. I am not sure if we are the right people to escort him. There were around a total of 20 people in the squad, including the veteran knight Eric, who went to the valley with Ian, and Luca, who called himself the Spearmaster. They traveled with him while guarding him and running errands. That's what I thought. The soldier Luca replied to the veteran knight. Both of them saw the freezing hell that Ian made at the valley. The landlord commanded them to protect him. A random wolf spirit, passing by them, would laugh, if it saw this situation. Perhaps, we are the ones who are being guarded. I agree. The convoy was formed with 20 people. By following Ian, they were heading to the end of the province, Lloyd Village. He was going to meet the alchemist who the merchant suggested. What do you think about it? Luca asked Ian, who was walking in front of him. Usually, people got scared when confronting mages. Especially, if they saw the scene at the valley. But this soldier, Luca, he didn't seem to be scared of Ian. Whether he confronted knights or mages, he was a very friendly guy. Does he dare to risk his life? As Ian had seen him, he could make a conclusion. Soon, this soldier would be rebuked by nobles or mages with bad tempers. Is it still far from Lloyd Village? Yet? Ah, we will arrive there soon. It's bit far, yet. Instead of answering, Ian changed the topic by giving him a question. As Ian intended, it seemed that Luca forgot about the question he asked previously. However, Luca felt different. Woo. It makes me so nervous, indeed. By Ian's question, Luca calmed himself. Honestly, he was as afraid of Ian as the others. Power was like a monstrous magic to nobles. How would he dare confront such a person easily? Furthermore, he hadn't known him for very long. But I have to endure. This is a chance. The only chance that is allowed to me. The reason that encouraged him to dare to risk his life, it was an interview. An interview for his life goal. When would I have a chance to have a conversation with a mage? The dream he told his comrades about whenever he had time. Writing a heroic chronicle after retirement. Everyone laughed at his goal, but Luca was serious. The mage and the spear master will be a masterpiece. The power of the dream was big enough to change his life. He used to always drink whenever he got a day off. Now, he learned writing skills whenever he had time. The wage which was only spent on alcohol, was now spent to buy paper, books, and ink. Cheer up! I can do it! No hesitation! Go go go! With a small self-encouragement, Luca grabbed his spear strongly. Now the squads were close to the village. You will see the village when you climb over that hill. The veteran knight Eric said. It was a very far away village, as though someone picked it up and put it away from the province. He had only heard of it in his former life, but had never visited there. The alchemist Letio, was it? The alchemist who came from the capital and lived in Lloyd village. According to the merchant, he moved here to gather some specific herb. The herb that only grew in Northland. Ian could list few herbs like that. Specifically, the herb that can't be found in other places would be. There was only one herb like that. The herb with a body that was too frail to be transported. The herb with sensitive characteristics that couldn't be cultivated as well. The flower of Randor. It was a rare herb. But there was no known effect of it. It was questionable if it should even be called as a herb. Maybe he is not an ordinary alchemist. He moved to north side to gather such a herb. Perhaps two possibilities are there. He knew its usage, or was just curious about it. We shall see. After he climbed to top of the hill, he could see the village. It was the Lloyd village. The village was in trouble. Village people were forced to gather at the center, and there were men who were threatening the people with knives. Even the soldiers who were stationed there were killed. Surung. The veteran knight Eric drew his sword. These men were thieves. Take these youngsters only, we better go back now. What about these chicks? Look at their faces, you fool. Would anyone buy them? A cunning voice. It was the conversation between thieves who were committing robbery and human trafficking. But what a waste. Let's sell these youngsters and quickly move to Coldwood. Hee. Yeah, that area has pretty chicks. There were 5 stationed soldiers and 12 boys who would be able to fight. However, there were 21 thieves. It was a battle that they couldn't win, compared to the number and combat experience of thieves. Furthermore, they were assaulted suddenly. Daddy! Douglas! There were parents who tried to stop their kids being taken away. One of these parents was the alchemist, Letio. He desperately held his son, Douglas. Give me the boy, you bastard! However, it was a meaningless struggling. This weak alchemist wasn't strong enough to hold his son from the muscular thieves. No. Not my son. Shut up! Asterisk smack. Smack. Smack, asterisk. The thief kicked Letio's stomach many times. Herk. Letio's eyes rolled up due to severe pain and he let out what seemed to be a death-like groan. This dying bastard dares to act against me. Before he got kicked, Letio's face had already turned grey. Furthermore, he was very skinny, like a wooden stick. It was obvious he was suffering from a nasty sickness. Daddy! The young son, Douglas, struggled to escape from the grasp of the thief. Let me go! Let me go! Daddy! Hey, they both are bitching a lot. The thief said annoyingly. He drew a dagger from a sheath on his thigh. Would you shut the fuck up if your daddy dies? With the threat, Douglas closed his mouth. Say one more word, then let's see what I would do. Sniff. Oh? Did I just hear something? The thief smiled sinisterly, while revealing his dirty teeth. He loved to steal money and rape a girl. However, the most entertaining thing was this. Killing, and playing around before killing. Just like this time. You cried, didn't you? No. Wow, now you talk. He started to tease the boy. Tisk, that crazy dude started it again. Even other thieves looked at him uneasily. When people were gathered, there was always at least one abnormal man. Finish it quickly and bring the kid. Hee hee. I know. The thief crouched in front of Letio, then said. Don't worry. I will sell him at a good place. He whispered while showing Douglas' face to Letio. No. Douglas. Don't go. Even he couldn't control himself, he stretched his arms, to grab his son. Bye-bye. The thief grabbed the knife in reverse. He was going to stab the back of Letio's neck. He loved decapitating people. Daddy! Daddy! While the boy screamed desperately. Pierre. It was a weird sound. Not a sound of something being penetrated clearly. Nor a sound of something being smashed. Some kind of sound that was in between that. The sound came from the thief's head, while spreading his red blood everywhere. What was that? What happened? The thieves were panicking. While looking around carefully, they reached out to the thief who lay on the ground. Ice. It was an icicle, which had each side sharpened, that penetrated through the head of the thief. Well, more accurately, his head was blown up. Where? Where did it come from? The thieves looked around cautiously, trying to find the source of the icicle. There, over there. One of thieves found something. He pointed to the hillside. The P provincial army. The knights and soldiers rushed down beauteously. That was the only thing they could see. Because they were already panicked at the scene. Why are they here? Damn! Run away! Still, there was a long enough distance between them that they can run away from them. That's the conclusion the thieves made. They were sure about it without any doubt. Pierre. Suddenly, another thief fell down. Again, it was an icicle. Pierre. The icicles came spontaneously. It never missed once. Pierre. They couldn't figure it out, that the icicles were coming from the top of the hill, even at the moment when they were dying on the ground. The very antithetical alchemist, too. Not bad at all. On the hill, Ian was there. He murmured. Ian's mana capacity had overcome second class, and now it had reached third class level. Not only because of training, but also because of the big support from the Mogrian ring. I was lucky I obtained it without any conflict. Ian was thinking of taking the Mogrian ring by any means necessary. As he said to the landlord, he considered to steal it. But he obtained it in a rather pleasant fashion, and with good benefits as well. The sign of an eternal guest. There would have been no better way to get this ring. Mr. Mage. They arrived at Lloyd Village without any major obstructions. The veteran knight, Eric, approached Ian. Is anyone wounded? Thanks to you, we had no chance of being injured. Eric said the truth. The icicles that came from the hill. They precisely targeted the thieves. Thank God that he is on our side. Would other mages in other countries be as strong as him? Eric was worried about the war which would occur someday. He had better be prepared with a high-quality helm and shield. We'd better collect the corpses first. Ian, who had no idea what Eric was thinking, said. We will send our messengers to McSpadden at once. All these stationed soldiers came from that house, so they will take care of these corpses, E/N, LOL McSpadden. The House of McSpadden. They served the House of Mogrian, and managed the northwest side of the province. Lloyd Village was managed by the McSpadden as well. I suggest you bury or burn rest of the corpses of the thieves, and let the village collect the corpses of the villagers. A fast and clear solution. As a knight, he acted quickly and efficiently. Do as you said. Yes, Mr. Mage. Ian accepted the suggestion of Eric. Ian was considered as his commander. Everyone in the squad regarded Ian as their commander. His age wasn't the problem. I wish he hasn't died. Ian looked around at the surviving villagers. There are those that are relieved. But there are those who are caught in sorrow with those whose family and neighbors were killed. Letio must be one of them. Letio. Buddy. Wake up. Daddy. Daddy. Ian heard the urgent voices. Letio, it was the name of the alchemist. Ian approached them. The alchemist Letio lay on the ground. Ian was surprised when he saw his face. This is pale skin, white hair, popped out eyebrow, sunken temples, thin, malnourished-looking body. Mana addiction. More commonly, it was a disease called the curse of God. As its name implies, only a few people with a specific body type got this disease. The symptoms of the alchemist were obviously indicating that he was a mana addict. The symptoms also showed that he has suffered from it for a long time. It must be mana addiction. There were 4 body types. Excluding the normal body type, there were 3 special types. The body type which has both mana heart and mana brain. Mana heart, it stacks mana inside the body and cycles it. Mana brain, which uses the stacked mana inside of the body and casts it to the outside of the body. The body type which only has mana heart. As this type didn't have mana brain, magic wasn't available. However, this type could focus their mana inside, and enhance their body with it. Most of them grew to royal knights. The body type with only a mana brain. The source of the mana brain was mana. However, this body type couldn't generate mana by itself. Which means, it was useless. It is rather problematic. To this body type, mana was vital. If for whatever reason mana was given to above the correct dosage, the leftover mana, which is stuck in the body, would keep stimulating their mana brain. For their whole lifetime, and every living moment. Literally, it is an addiction. Of course, it wasn't a common situation for mana to be injected into them. The only one who could inject mana to them was a mage. I have seen a few mages who have nasty a characteristic. Ian bent his body in front of Letio. If he left him alone, he would die soon. Although Ian couldn't fix him, he could give first aid to him. Give me a second. Ian lay his hands on Letio. By injecting mana, he treated the symptoms first. Pant. 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 Then, Letio started to breathe calmly. His face recovered from being deadly pale. His body recovered quickly. Now treat him. Yet? Yes. Thank you. The man who seemed to be Letio's neighbor. He helped Letio to stand up steadily while bowing to Ian. My daddy? Is he all right? The boy looked similar in age to Ian. Perhaps, a little bit younger. For a while. The permanent treatment of a mana addict? Ian knew nothing which could do so. He only knew temporary treatments. So, again, he will be like that later. That's right. The boy made a crying face. There was no choice for the alchemist. The only choice left for him was injecting mana from mages or die. He was only able to choose these two. Quickly! Quickly, I need to find the flower, my father said. The boy murmured. Ian heard part of his murmuring. Flower. The word, flower, concerned Ian greatly. Would it be the flower of Randor? He said it as if the flower is treatment. Suddenly, Ian realized something. The herb which mana-addicted alchemists are seeking. The herb, which his son regarded as a treatment for mana addicts. To be a cure for mana addicts, what effect must it have? It must deal with the leftover mana inside the body. Mana neutralization. Ian was shocked. The effect of a herb which could neutralize mana. If it was true. A poison that neutralized the mana in the blood vessels. The voice stirred in his memory. Before he rewound time. The moment he was poisoned by Ragnar. Ian memorized his first sentence. The poison I had. The deadly poison that Ragnar prepared. To assassinate Ian, and to exterminate every mage in the world. I better check. Ian looked at Letio quickly. It would be clearer to ask the alchemist rather than the boy. Just then. Douglas! Where are you going? Douglas! The man who lifted Letio shouted. To the boy who ran out of the village. He must have run to find the flower his father spoke of. Glass. Surprisingly, Ian was familiar with the name. It was a common name in Green River. However, the current situation made his name special. Alchemist and anti-magic herb. These two keywords changed his name into something special. Royal Alchemist, Douglas Hamann. He recalled the greatest alchemist in the history of the Empire. Right. Now I remember. He spelt the name, Douglas, slowly. Then he could remember details about him. He was a slave at the beginning. If Ian hadn't visited Lloyd Village, he would be sold as a servant by thieves. Just like in his former life. Specifically, he hated mages. Only mages could inject mana into another person. It must be a mage who made his father a mana addict. So truly, is he? Ian looked at Douglas, who rushed outside. Furthermore, he seemed to be similar in age as Ian. Ragnar, Ian, and Douglas. Everyone was around the same age in his former life. Haha. Ian laughed like a madman. The village he visited to obtain just a few elixirs. In the village, he met a man who he totally did not expect. Ragnar, this time. The boy who had the talent to become the greatest alchemist of the Empire. Also, the alchemist who will stand on Ragnar's side. Ian pursued Douglas quickly. You won't be able to take him this time. The very antithetical alchemist. 3. Douglas was running to the forest near the village. Considering his age, he ran very fast. He kept a good distance between Ian and himself. However, Ian knew some tricks. Haste. He was a mage. He approached Douglas very quickly. While Douglas felt someone was following him and turned his head. Sleep. No more hide and seek. It was a low-class sleeping magic. It was strong enough for a young boy. The flower. I must find. He mentioned the flower again, even while he was losing consciousness. The herb that would cure the disease of his father. The flower of Randor. Oops. Ian attempted to catch him with one of his arms. Then he decided to use both of his arms to catch Douglas. I still feel awkward. He often forgot that he had returned to being a young child. This wasn't easily accepted by his body. Phew. After laying Douglas on the ground, Ian sat next to him. Then he started to think deeply about this situation. Firstly, the flower of Randor. The flower of Randor neutralizes mana. It was a vital herb for a mage. He never knew about it in his former life. To a mage, it is a poisonous herb rather than a medicinal herb. Fortunately, it was a rare herb. In addition, it was nearly impossible to trade or to cultivate this herb. Furthermore, its effect is unknown to most people. Even Ian wasn't sure about the effect of this herb. Would there be anyone else who knew about the effect of this herb? I need to find out. The one who taught Letio about the effect of this flower, or maybe a book, record, or rumor, whatever it is, he must figure it out. Daddy. Flower. Douglas said in his sleep. Still, he was seeking the flower of Randor for his father. This boy is another problem. Ian looked at his face insightfully. It gave him confidence about his previous guess even more. If I removed the anger from his former face, Ian could easily visualize his future face. But as he said, this boy didn't have anger in his face, unlike his former face. Douglas in his former life was filled with hatred. Of course, he might have thought that he had hidden it. What should I do? The deadly poison that Ian consumed in his former life. It was likely made by Douglas. Actually, it must have been. He must have known the poison was for me. He hated mages. He must have brewed the poison knowing the Emperor's plan. Should I kill him now? The one who threatens Ian the most. Maybe this boy was the only one. Killing him before he became a threat, was one of the only methods. But, I can change him, to make him stand on my side. What if he uses his talents for only Ian, and not Ragnar? What if he brews artifact-level elixirs which enhance the power of Ian further, instead of brewing deadly poison? I may be able to challenge the 9th class. The level of dragon. He might have a chance to reach it. But humans couldn't be controlled, without exception. Since his father survived and he didn't become a slave, he would grow in a different way than in the former life. They change quickly. The human was an animal which never trusted. He already trusted, and it resulted in his death. The only person Ian could trust in this life was only my mother. He decided to not trust anyone except her. The precious present that former life gave to him. Perhaps, it was rather a curse. Daddy. Don't die. Daddy. Douglas started to scream in his dream. He must be having nightmares. This nightmare, which was about him losing his father, which could have been real in the former life. Mr. Mage. The voice was coming from a distance. It was the soldier, Luca, who was running to him while breathing roughly. He always carried the spear with a red feather. What is going on? I saw you rushing out of the village. Luca said while glancing at Douglas. It was the boy who rushed out from the village before Ian did. That boy. I chased him because he would do something reckless. But what? He is sleeping, isn't he? I made him sleep. Aha! That is the sleeping magic. Oh! Luca nodded quickly. He seemed to be inspired by his book. Well, as you came here, please bring him back to the village. What about you? I need to go some hole. Suddenly Ian has sharpened his eyes. Anything wrong? Luca was frightened by Ian's eyes. He started to sweat due to his fear. Nothing. I'll be back later. Ah, yes. Then. Luca quickly carried Douglas on his back. Even though he swore to himself to be brave for his book, still, he was so scared. He moved quickly to run away from Ian. It was worth it though. Sleeping magic. With a mixture of pleasantness and fear, Luca arrived near the village. Let's do this. After a short shout, Ian stood up. He went deeper into the forest. Yo, kid. It was a rough voice from a man. Where ya going? It's dangerous. He wasn't alone. There were more than 10 men. They started to encircle Ian. Seems you just came from Lloyd Village, we want to hear a story. What happened there? Thieves who assaulted the village. These guys seem to be part of them. We are gentle guys, you know? If you remain a good boy, we might spare your life. Hey? What was the word? Mercy. Yeah, with mercy. Furthermore, there were a few kids they kidnapped. It wasn't just kids from Lloyd Village. They must have assaulted a different village. Heisting many villages simultaneously? It was a risky move for the thieves. Probably, they were going to move their den after this heist. They tried to steal as much as they could, before they move. I killed them. Ian replied simply. What? I ordered people to burn or bury the thieves' corpses. He recited the words which Eric had said before. What the hell is he say? If I burn you, it will cause a bushfire. Then. Ian swung his hand from down to up. Entangle. Then an amazing thing happened. Grr. They felt a weak earthquake shake underneath their feet. A few seconds later. Asterisk crush. 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 Crush, asterisk. Monstrous vines came out, rupturing the soil. What? Vines came out from every side. It targeted the thieves and started to entangle their bodies. Not just that, it started to block their nose and mouth, causing them to suffocate, like giant snakes that hunted their prey. Cunning and quick. MMMPH. Ian didn't care for the thieves struggling. Ian released the tied-up kids. Where did you come from? From Soil Village. Soil is it? It was a village he hadn't heard of. There must be many tiny villages that he has never heard of. Head straight that way, then you will see the village. Ian pointed to the Lloyd village side. Tell them that you came from Soil Village, and that things happened in your village, and Mr. Mage removed the thieves. You got it. The kids nodded. Although there were some kids who were older than Ian, nobody dared to question him. Because they just saw what happened to the thieves. Go, quickly. Ian sent the kids. Now, he turned his eyes towards the thieves. They were still struggling. I've decided to see how things turn out. Before I kill anyone. The vines started to wrap around them with more strength. Ian didn't order the vines to do so, but the vines automatically acted itself by understanding Ian's intention. Dead or alive, which one would be beneficial to me? Ian gathered mana on his left leg. To cast a new magic. For you guys. Smash, E/N, Huahem Ian smash. Ian powerfully stomped on the ground with his left leg. Then, the ground in front of him started to fall down. A giant hole was made. A dead body will be beneficial to me, won't it? With Ian's order, the vines started to move. It stretched their roots and moved down into the hole. Of course, together with the entangled thieves. The very antithetical alchemist, 4. The sun was setting, an eventful day at Lloyd Village was ending. The atmosphere village became calm. Douglas, are you sleeping? Inside the shabby hut Letio was lying on a hard wooden bed. Although he was lying on the bed, he hadn't fallen asleep. Not yet. Douglas was lying on a small bed on the other side. He couldn't fall asleep, like his father. Barton told me that a mage came to our village. Well, he seems similar in age to me. I heard you risked your life again. I just wanted to find the flower. So you risked your life. Don't you know how dangerous the outside is? At his father's rebuking, Douglas stood up. He seemed to be upset. Then what should I do? The mage told me. You will be fine for just a short period. Soon, you will suffer again. After he awoke from the sleeping magic, he couldn't think about anything. Except the worry about his father, and the fear that he would be left alone. I'm okay. Now, we just need to find the flower of Randor. Yet we haven't found it. We've spent more than a year already. It was true. To cure mana addiction they moved to the northern side a year ago, to find the flower of Randor. Are you even sure that you can be cured with the flower? Douglas. Well, does it even exist? Letio couldn't say anything. He understood his son's concerns. But he couldn't give his son a clear answer. It does. Somewhere, someone answered. It wasn't Letio's voice. They looked around their house. The voice didn't come from inside, but outside. Who is it? Letio asked carefully. With his sick body, he stepped closer to the door, while grabbing an axe with his hand. The flower of Randor. I heard that you are seeking it. Letio didn't reply. He opened the door slowly. Scree. The rusty hinges of the old door made an uncomfortable sound. The owner of the voice was standing by the wall of the hut. It was a young boy. What are you talking abo? Excuse me. The boy came into the house smoothly. Who are why? Then Douglas recognized the boy. MMMPH. Suddenly, as if he misspoke something, he covered his mouth. Douglas? Do you know this boy? He is the mage I told you. What? That was why. The reason Douglas covered his mouth. He spoke without any respect unconsciously, because the mage was a similar age to him. Sorry, sir. I made a mistake. It is okay. By the way. After he calmed Douglas, Ian addressed Letio. I am Ian Page. Ian put something on the closest table, while he was speaking. It was a fist-sized ice ball. What is it? You may need it. By his instinct, Letio stepped closer to the stuff. He investigated the ice closer. This. Letio opened his eyes wide. With shaking hands, he picked up the sphere of ice. He saw something which was caught in the ice. There was a violet flower that was frozen. The flower of Randor. Douglas was surprised as well by Letio's murmuring. The flower that they had never found, even though they had searched for a year. Did Ian bring them a flower of which even its existence was uncertain? This mage? The flower, I will give it to you. Letio's eye started to shake. Before, I just want to ask one thing. Letio was ready to answer whatever he asked. He suffered from mana addiction for too long. His life was ticking. He couldn't just die while leaving Douglas alone. How did you know? Pardon. Its effect wasn't known. With Ian's question, Letio barely cooled down his head. It wasn't an answer that he could speak easily. That is. The herb which was fatal to mages. A mage was asking about it. His life was at risk. Please don't spend your time on meaningless thinking. Ian read Letio's mind. He spoke quietly. I can find it whenever I want. Ian threatened Letio indirectly, for young Douglas. Letio understood the intention of Ian. What would happen if a mage decided to harm Letio? That would be the end of Letio. There were no ways to prevent it, nor run away. The answer was an important matter. Of course, I dare not to. This mage saved his life twice. From the hands of the thief. From his mana addiction. The illustrated book. Letio spoke out as he decided. I saw it in this illustrated book. Letio walked to an old bookshelf. Most of the books were about alchemy. There were a few kids' books as well. Click. Letio didn't pull out the book from the shelf. Instead, he took off a cover piece of the bottom of the shelf. There was a hidden space. This one. Letio pulled out a book from the hidden space. It was a very thick and old book. Its cover was worn out badly. Its pages were withered to yellow, which showed how old the book was. It is an illustrated herb book which I inherited from my father. Ian opened the book. It was filled with small letters. It was all about the name and information of herbs. Their effects and the region they grew. Illustrations of them, and how to gather them. Astonishing. Ian was impressed. It was an essence of herbalism. Here, would you look at this page? Over there, he saw the flower of Randor section. Because of its rarity, there was not much information about it. It can neutralize mana. only can be found on the northern side of the continent. A12 petaled with an unclear violet color. Its blue leaf and stem are poisonous. It withers instantly whenever it is removed from the soil it grows in. It can't be gathered as of current knowledge, even though its written information was precise. How, and who wrote this book? Was your father an alchemist too? It was our family profession. So this book is an heirloom. Similar. A house which chooses alchemy as its family job. It was a rare case. Furthermore, the quality of the book was a surprise. Douglas inherited such a bloodline. Ian wanted Douglas more. That was the answer I wanted. The ice which contained the flower of Randor. While holding it, Ian spoke. And the ice started to thaw quickly. Soon, only its wet soil and flower were exposed to the air. I am sorry. PSSSSSS. The flower withered quickly as it was exposed to the air. Precisely, it wasn't just withered, but completely dried. Even with a small movement, its body was cracked to dust. I had no choice, either. I am only able to freeze it so that it keeps its shape. He didn't lie. It was exactly the same as the book illustrated. Whenever it was removed from its soil, it turns to dust. Did you lie to me? I showed you the proof, first. What kind of proof? The proof that I can find the flower of Randor whenever I want to. The flower which can't be found by Letio and Douglas for a year. It took only half of a day for Ian to find it. Thanks to his ultimate magical application and conjuring magic. Let's make a deal. A deal. Ian jumped into the main topic. Let's travel with me. What a sudden do you mean? I will inject you with mana periodically. The life which was threatened by mana addiction. It meant Ian would own Letio's life. The way of how to use the flower as a medical herb. I will find it for you as well. By searching through every record of the Royal and Ivory Tower. There must be some kind of record about it. As Ragnar and Douglas in his former life found it. It was a perfect condition to Letio. However, it was a deal. There must be something he needed. What do you want to have in return? Letio asked. Research, and brewing. What sort of things? Elixirs. Elixirs. An elixir that is focused on my body type, mana type, and all other details of myself. A custom elixir that is only for me. The custom elixir for one man. Letio asked suspiciously. If you want, you can ask any famous other alchemist, can't you? I am not such a great alchemist. I know. It might sound offensive to Letio. However, Ian didn't stop. Sometimes, the power of desperation is stronger than talent. Do I look that desperate? You won't like to die while leaving your young son alone. Letio couldn't say anything. Of course, Ian's word hit the nail on the head. However, what surprised him more than Ian's word was. He is not a kid. They weren't words that a child was able to speak. There was no exception for mages. Mages that Letio had met before. They treated him, a mana-heartless man, as their toy. They were all arrogant. Of course, they were far from wise. The power which was given at young age. It was like a loaded crossbow. The crossbow held by a young kid. But he is different. Who is he? Letio felt that something isn't natural, which caused him to hesitate. After short thinking, Letio said. Would you give some time to think? As long as you want. Ian respected Letio's thinking. Ian took off the mask of a child. Letio must have felt something unnatural. He would need some time. This time, it will be different. Ian thought while looking at Douglas. He won't lose his father, nor become a slave. The boy was frozen at this sudden suggestion. His face contained no hatred, which Douglas of his former life had. Especially, I will try to save your father. Letio's life was just a tool for Ian. Ian wanted the talent of Douglas. To possess your talent. The coming of the Crown Prince. 1. Ian and his convoy had stayed in the village for a while. Since the village was still recovering from the assault of the thieves, they decided to stay to relieve them. The spearmaster, Lucky, was brave. Confronting thousands of enemies, he wasn't swayed at all. He trusted the perfect support of the 6th class archmage. Then Dragon Spear Loganis was swung and slashed its surroundings while flagging its own red feather. Under a Zelkova tree in the village, Luka was writing his novel on his notebook while laying his spear with a red feather on his thigh. Wait, what kind of magic will that mage use? He's supposed to support. Maybe, the ice lance that Mr. Ian used? With a massive amount of them, smash, smash, smash. I can. You want me to show you? Ah! With the sudden voice, Luka screamed. Ian stood right next to him. How long had he stood here? Mr. Mage. I didn't mean to scare you, I am sorry. And no problem. I am fine. Haha. He was making his best smile, but he wasn't smiling inside. Thanks to him becoming closer to Ian recently, he was able to manage himself to smile. Otherwise, he would be pissing his pants. Dragon Spear Loganis. Yet. I can see the red feather on it. So is it? Ian said while looking at Luka's spear with a red feather. A teasing voice and wink as a child. So he read. He hadn't shown his novel to others. Well, its first reader was Mr. Mage now. Luka felt ashamed and wanted to go hide in a hole. By the way, how can he read? It was quite an interesting fact that Ian can read the letters. Although he became a mage, but it happened just a month ago. Before that, he was just a son of a kitchen maid. He wouldn't have had a chance to learn letters. When someone becomes a mage, then does he learn letters automatically? It took Luka a few years to read and write letters. Of course, he didn't know all of them yet. He still had to learn many words and a lot of grammar. Why, you can read? Luka questioned courageously. What if magic allowed him to read letters? It is going to be very useful information. Of course. I am a mage. So a mage can read letters with the power of magic. Of course. A mage is the best. Wow. Luka took Ian's joke seriously. Ian laughed quietly while watching his stunned face. I've always wondered, but now I am sure. Ian knew Luka. Precisely, he knew the book Luka had written. He never had read it but heard about it. I heard about him when I just decided to leave the capital in my former life. In the Mogrian province, Ian was the most famous. However, there was another man who had a lot of money and was just as famous as Ian. Luka. The novelist earned a lot of money. The novelist used the nickname Luka. Ian was sure it was him who would become a novelist. Although he wasn't famous yet. Mr. Mage, here you are. Someone called Ian. It was the veteran knight, Eric. We are now ready to return to the province castle. Ian looked at Letio's house. Since the village was small, he easily found it. Does he need more time? Letio said to give him some time to think. Ian thought he has given Letio enough time. Okay, let's move. Then, we will depart 1 hour later. Lloyd village was restored. Same as Soil village, which was assaulted as well. The house of Max Padden doubled the number of guard soldiers. By the way, Luka, what are you doing here? After finishing the report, Eric asked Luka. I was taking a rest for a while. While your comrades were preparing to return. I couldn't see anything that needed help. Are there any more excuses? Sorry sir. Eric was a knight who was born to a non-noble family. Thanks to that, he didn't look down on other soldiers and he was friendly to them. Of course, he knew his duty and respected his orders. Well, he will have a hard time. Ian shortly felt sympathy for Luca. Ian walked to Letio's house. Did he need more time? Scree. At that moment, the door of the hut was opened. Hey? Mr. Mage. Douglas and Ian made eye contact with each other. Behind him, Letio walked out, while carrying a huge bag with him. Not only on his back but in his hands. Have you decided? Letio nodded. I have no choice. I better live longer at least. Letio roughly tousled Douglas' hair. He decided to survive by any means necessary for his only son. Wise decision. Please keep the promise. Of course. The enemy of his former life Ian met coincidentally, now joined his side. It was a good start. Have you said goodbye to the village people? I just drank shortly with the village men, only had a few. I was just a stranger who was brewing strange medicine. Letio's voice is bitter. Of course, the village people acted normally. Letio didn't blame them as well. Yes, sir. Douglas came to Ian and opened his mouth. Mages were fearful existences to people. He acted carefully. Can you really cure my father? I promise. Really? Really? Then. You are my captain now. Hey. Captain. What a cute word which suits a young kid. In his former life, this innocent kid became a man filled with anger and hate. All right. Call me like that then. Yes. Captain. The conversation between young son and Ian, who acted like a mature man. While Letio listened to this weird conversation, he pulled something from his bag. It was a flask with a long lid. This is my contract gift. Letio handed it to Ian. Ian gently shook the flask. Something is in here. It was a flask filled with an unidentified liquid. Would it be the elixir he had brewed? But normally, elixir wouldn't be contained in such a flask. It's an alcohol. Alcohol. I drank it with the other men all the night, and that's the last one. Although Ian acted like matured man, did he just give alcohol to a kid? Well, I'm not saying it's real alcohol. Actually, it is alcohol, but what should I say? Alcohol that's good for your body. Douglas tried to help his father. However, it wasn't a description that Letio wanted. It is sort of a half elixir. Half elixir. What do you mean half? It is good for your body but it tastes like alcohol. Then it won't make me drunk. It makes you drunk. Then isn't it alcohol? But its effect I guarantee. Unlike standard elixir that increases your power in the long term, it is a potion which gives immediate effect. Letio added a long description. It was the new side of Letio which he hadn't shown to Ian before. Maybe this was his real character. It also proved that he decided firmly. Mr. Mage. Suddenly, a soldier came to Ian. A messenger from the province castle is coming. A soldier pointed to the hill outside of the village. Indeed, a man was coming while riding a horse, with the Mogrian flag on his back. Asterisk clip clop. Clip clop. Clip clop, asterisk. The sound of hoofbeats was closing in. Ian walked to the entrance of the village. Other people also followed Ian. Whoa! Whoa! The rider calmed his horse as he saw Ian. By his appearance, he was a province soldier. Mr. Mage. You may speak. You better hurry to go back to the province castle. An urgent voice came from the rider. Is there any problem? The messenger informed us that the Crown Prince has passed Garmouth River. Garmouth River? Already. The message arrived today's morning. Not only Ian, but Eric and other soldiers started to make noise. Garmouth River is the river which is located at the beginning of the north side. It would take only around 2 days to the province castle. Why were they informed so late? In common sense, they should inform the castle 10 days beforehand, via communication post. so the province had enough time to prepare to welcome the crown prince. I'd better move quickly. There was not enough time to move all together. Unless every one of the convoys and Letio family rode horses. Please lend me a horse. After Ian decided, he said to the rider. Do you know how to ride? I don't know riding technique, and my legs are too short. Ian's body was too small, so he needed a custom saddle. Due to that, the rider asked in confusion. Then how do you? I will befriend it shortly. Ian approached the horse while saying that. While petting the horse, Ian cast a spell on it. The magic that made him able to control a peaceful animal. Taming. Then, the horse waved its tongue to Ian. Taming magic started to work. I will see you there later. Ian rode the horse immediately. Being honest, he was hanging onto it as strongly as he can. Sir Eric, please come along with the alchemist over there. Yeah? Who is he? I thank you. See you there. After Ian asked Eric to escort Letio and Douglas, he whispered to the horse. Let's go to the province castle. Will you? Prrrrrgghh. As a reply, the horse whined. It started to run straight to the province castle. There was no need to pull its bridle, nor kick its stomach. Eric suddenly received Ian's favor. He gazed at Letio. Letio didn't avoid his eyes. It was a totally awkward situation. My name is Letio. I am an alchemist. Letio tried first to get rid of this weird situation. My name is Eric, a knight of the Mogrian Knight Order. However, after the greeting, the awkwardness started again, E/N, cue the tumbleweed. Eventually, they just looked at Ian's backside, which was getting far. For a long time. The coming of the crown prince, too. By any means necessary, make him your man. The luxury carriage embroidered with gold and jewels. In the carriage, a young handsome man was sitting. He had impressive platinum-colored hair. Use the boy as a foundation to prepare your future status. The crown prince of the empire, Hayden Green River. He recalled the request of his father. I'm telling you to establish a loyal team, unique to yourself. The request was to persuade the boy to be your side. Although they had had a long conversation, the conclusion was simple. Ha! Hayden couldn't understand. Although Ian was a mage, but what's special about him? Weren't there so many mage kids in the ivory tower? There are so many brats I can't stand. It wasn't only Ian he had thought. The 5 younger brothers in the palace. In fact, Hayden didn't regard them as his siblings. Humph, even their mothers aren't my mother. The kids who would threaten his life later. Whenever Hayden recalled them, he wanted to vomit. On the day I succeed the crown, he would execute all other princes. Especially the 5th prince, the cunning one. Haha. The imagination made him feel better. After calming his mind, he looked at the scenery over the window. The river that shone in an emerald color as one of the rivers of Green River. It was the Garmouth River, which was the border of south and north. Your Highness. A knight on a horse approached the carriage. It was the 2nd Royal Knight Captain, Oliver Raywood. We should send a messenger to them right now. I think we already finished that conversation. Captain Oliver hardened his face slightly, so as to not let the Crown Prince notice. They would need a minimum time to prepare your welcome, Your Highness. Please have mercy on them. Oliver pleaded to Crown Prince gently and respectfully. Ah, your house is one of the northern houses, isn't it? Yes, it is. The house of Haywood was one of the houses that served the Mogrian house. Oliver's older brother was the leader of the Raywood house. The Crown Prince started to think. He liked Oliver at least, while he doesn't like most of the other people. The knight who always protected him closely, without excuse. Furthermore, he was called the greatest swords master of the empire. As a crown prince, he should take care of a man like Oliver. Not the kids who know some magic trick. It was the motto of the Crown Prince. How many days left to arrive there? It would take approximately 2 days. Fine. I will allow it, only because of your loyalty. As you command. Oliver moved away from the carriage. He commanded his squads. Soon, 2 riders left the march. To visit a communication post to send a message to the House of Mogrian. 2 days isn't that bad. His trick was very nasty. While looking at nobles in a hurry and panicked, he felt an excitement whenever he watched it. Maybe it can be expressed as superiority. That's why he hadn't even relayed his march route properly. Furthermore, he increased the marching speed to be unexpected. He wanted to see the northern nobles while they panicked. A guardian of the north. Aegis of the empire? Bullshit. He didn't like them since the moment he heard of them. Barbarians who always were talking about the tradition of the north. They didn't have mages nor knights with a mana heart. What made such barbarians feel so proud of themselves? This time, he would break their pride. And mages. A massive march which continued behind the carriage. The Crown Prince stared at other carriages in the march. 3 carriages which were as luxurious as the Crown Prince's. Each carriage was carrying mages one by one. One day, I will deal with those arrogant men. The northern territory was panicked. From all nobles to normal people. They moved in a hurry to prepare for the sudden visit of the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince will be staying here. Not a single speck of dust will be allowed. Remember it. Not only that, but the numberless servants and maids in the province castle as well. How are we going to satisfy the tongues of palace people? We couldn't start it unless the chief maid comes. I can help you guys. MMRS page. Come on. I told you not to call me like that. Kitchen maids, who had no idea of the taste of the royal palace, were on alert as well. I assumed they would be late as there was no message. Of course, the man who in the most trouble. The great landlord Marcus Mogrian shook his head. He had enough with the Mogrian Mountain event, but now, the Crown Prince was coming. Did everyone arrive? Yes. Except for Max Padden and Raywood House, all other leaders and reclaimers of other houses have arrived at the province castle. Also, those 2 houses that haven't arrived sent a message that they will arrive soon. The veteran old butler, Hrothgar, answered clearly. It removed some burdens of the great landlord. What would happen if there are empty chairs of nobles, while the Crown Prince arrives? He must rebuke them with it. However, the biggest problem was unsolved. What about Mr. Mage? No message yet. Yes. No message yet. That's the problem. Of course, he wouldn't want to blame Ian at all. But he was concerned about the reaction that the Crown Prince would show. Let's move out, anyway. The great landlord moved toward to the main entrance. To form a welcome line to greet the Crown Prince. I greet you, great landlord. Numerous leaders and reclaimers from other houses that serve Mogrian were there. They couldn't greet each other properly, yet. They wouldn't be able to have some conversation until dinner time. Greetings later. First, we better prepare to welcome the Crown Prince. Soon, the nobles started to move quickly. Including the great landlord, people of the Mogrian house took the first line. The rest of the leaders and reclaimers of the other houses took a line behind. Phew, what a surprise! The leader of the Raywood house had just arrived. Alter Raywood spoke to the great landlord while moving into his position. His roused hair showed how fast he had ridden the horse. That's what I am saying. It was the great landlord who was in the biggest trouble. There were only a few minutes left. The Crown Prince is coming. Finally, the shout of a soldier shook the province castle. From afar, a massive march was coming. Knights and soldiers with white clothes, and luxurious carriages. Finally, the problem was coming. Great landlord, where is Mr. Mage? Now other leaders of houses started to wonder. The mage was the only reason that the crown prince had come. However, where is that mage? He is. While the great landlord about to explain that the mage went out somewhere and he hadn't turned yet. Asterisk clip clop. Clip clop. Clip clop, asterisk. The narrow shortcut on the side road of the province castle. At the side road, which was connected to the deep northern territory, a horse was coming. With the boy riding on it. Actually, while hanging the boy on the back. His riding pose was so untrained. It couldn't even be called a riding pose. The rider's pose showed no basic skills of riding. However, the horse directed straight to the destination. Stop. Purr. With a short word, the horse decreased its speed as if it understood the word. Would it even possible? No such clever horse existed. Nobles spent many hours with their horses. In their common sense, it was impossible. Sorry. I am a bit late. All good. It's a relief you just arrived in time. Please, come here. The great landlord indicated Ian's position by himself. He was so desperately hurried to do so. Mr. Mage is the man who received a royal order, you must stand at the very front of the line, which is the manner of the empire. Every noble who was listening to the conversation was astonished. Although they had expected it, but they couldn't believe their eyes when they saw him for real. That boy is a mage. The boy who arrived with weird riding skill. He was the guest of the north, Mage Ian Page. The coming of the Crown Prince, 3. So, is that you? It was the first sentence of the Crown Prince when he saw Ian, standing in front of the province castle, and that was the end of his words. Intended and blatant ignorance of Ian. It seemed he didn't really care about what the emperor asked of him before. Of course, Ian didn't care about that, either. He acted exactly the same as in my former life. He hadn't inherited the talent of a king like his father, nor the wisdom from his mother. Literally, he was an inferior man. Ian expected nothing from him. If there was no love of the emperor, he should have been kicked out a while ago. Who I really care about is. Instead of the emperor, Ian paid attention to another person. The 3 mages who came along with the emperor. Between them, he focused on the mage, who was the only female among them. Cecilia. Ian was able to recall her clearly. Of course, the other 2 mages he also remembered. However, Cecilia was a special case. She was a spy from the Coldwood Empire. In his former life, this truth was revealed a long time later. A very rare case where a mage was revealed as a spy. It shocked the whole empire at that time. I expected they would try to contact me, but from the Coldwood Empire, or the Republic of Lo. He expected they would try to contact him. However, they sent not other spies, but her? In an emergency, are they trying to suppress me with her magic? Coincidentally, Cecilia looked at Ian with an attractive and fresh smile. Ian also didn't avoid her eyes. He replied to her gaze with an innocent child's face. It would be a long night. Late at night, at the dinner hall of the province castle. A huge dinner party was held to welcome the crown prince. Considering they only had 2 days, it was quite a satisfying party. Forgetting about each side standing in public, but welcoming the guest. It was an old traditional manner of North nobles. The tradition the crown prince had looked down upon with hatred. However, the crown prince didn't deny the party. Haha! I never knew that North wine was so good. Instead, he enjoyed the party. He loved alcohol more than any others. Actually, it was more like tenacity, more than love. The magic potion which lets him forget everything. The crown prince has no solid standard at all. A lady looked at the empire in the crowds. The lady, Cecilia, clicked her tongue. Well, it's good for us, though. She was the spy of Coldwood Empire. Foolish crown prince? Nothing bad for her country. Even the emperor, who was called as good and wise, always tried to cover for him. It was clear evidence that the future of Green River was doubtful. Where is the boy? She didn't need to spy on the foolish crown prince forever. Today, her only target was Ian. Cecilia's eyes were searching for Ian. He didn't show up at the dinner hall. Of course, he was a kid. I'll find him eventually, there's no hurry. Cecilia left the dinner hall quietly. The first order from her country was simple, E/N, execute Order 66. Joining the march of the Crown Prince, which headed to the Northern Territory. Well, I accomplished that at least. It wasn't that hard. She was a third-class mage who would have some power in the ivory tower. If she wanted, she could have come easily. Is it really true? The report about Ian from the conducting mage. A few rumors about him which came from the Northern Territory. She reported everything to her country that she heard. However, whenever she sent the report, she doubted it. Taught himself how to manage mana? Casting magic that he was never taught? Just like the first mage of the same legend? Her country also had the same suspicion. I still can't believe it. A few days ago, the second mission was ordered. Figure out whether the rumors are true or not. It meant that she had to check it in person. What if the rumor was just an exaggerated story? She could just make simple excuse. As a mage and a senior of the Ivory Tower, she challenged him with her curiosity. The Tower Lord also ordered her to pay attention to Ian anyway. But if the rumors were truthful, then everything would change suddenly. Kidnap him and his mother alive, then return straight to the Coldwood Empire. The chance would decrease later. It must be now, while he was staying in the Northern Territory, the mission must be accomplished. So, while everyone was not paying attention due to the dinner party, today was the perfect day. But kidnapping is quite an odd mission. Try to bring him alive by any means necessary. We will try to convince him after that. But if it turns ugly, he better be killed. We can't let other countries grab such a dangerous weapon. The order clearly showed the will of the Coldwood Empire. He is not in the bedroom. His mother was helping kitchen maids, which was very unusual. Rumor said his mother was kitchen maid, and it seemed to be true. As I heard, he usually stays in the gymnasium, doesn't he? That's what the servants of the castle said. The first gymnasium, which is the biggest area of province gymnasiums. They said he always stood in the center of it. Some said they saw some great magics. Being honest, she thought it must be exaggerated. Rumors are always getting bigger and bigger like a snowball. Hundreds of goblins? It must be about 100 goblins. Still, it would be a great talent. Great enough talent that provides her good enough reason to kidnap him. Is he here? Cecilia arrived near the first gymnasium. She looked inside sneaky. With magic, she erased her trails as well. There he is. As expected, Ian was there. Exactly the same as the servants described. He stood at the center quietly. He didn't move at all. Let's start with. The testing time had come. Warm-up level. Above the head of Cecilia, a few blue spheres appeared. An elemental, a pure chunk of mana. It was the beginner-level magic, which power was about the same as a light punch. Magic missile. The 3 spheres were flying to Ian. If the rumors were true, he shouldn't simply be defeated by a magic missile. Even it was just a rumor, it wouldn't harm him that much. Asterisk bang. Bang. Bang, asterisk. A dull noise. It was different to Cecilia's expectation. It wasn't the sound of beating flesh. Shield. So it was. The semi-transparent shield was covering around the boy. It was the source of dull noises. How? Reacting with a shield with this sudden assault. Did he expect it? It can't be. So it's not just a rumor, hey? Cecilia revealed herself in front of Ian. There is no meaning in hiding. Who's there? In the boy's voice, there was no emotion. The emotion which he was supposed to feel in this sudden situation. Embarrassment, curiosity, fear, etc. This was strange, and suspicious. Didn't you see the magic? I am your great ivory tower senior. Cecilia replied without swaying. She put on a smile. She wanted to have a conversation with him. What are you doing? Can't mages greet each other? Do you call this rudeness a greeting? Hey? Look at what this young boy says. While making some funny gesture, Cecilia approached. She wanted to check Ian's face closer. Come on, a senior should be able to do some small tricks on a newbie, don't be harsh. As she expected. Ian wasn't embarrassed at all. Should you really make that serious face? You make me embarrass. Stop. Cecilia. Cecilia stopped suddenly. Did she tell her name to the boy? No, she never did. Cecilia Coldwalker. What? Coldwalker. Children who were born to be trained as Coldwood spies. The children who survived from the last training and started the mission. It was a secret surname which was only given to such children. Even in her country, only a few knew about the existence of Coldwalker. But then, just who are you? The coming of the Crown Prince, 4. Who are you? Fully alert, Cecilia asked him. Hiding emotions was the most basic of the basics for a Coldwalker. However, at this moment, she couldn't hide her emotions. That name. How do you? I know it very well. Of course, he knew. The man who caught the tail of the Coldwalkers in the Empire. The man who almost destroyed the entire operation. That man was Ian in his former life. If you want, I can list your agents, what kind of operations you guys are running at the moment. Bolshi. Yul, the horsekeeper of the House of Moulton. Robin, royal secretary. Suddenly, Ian started to recite some names and their operations. Ario, the 9th Border Defense Force soldier. Isabel, the chief maid of the detached royal palace. Ah, she shouldn't have become a chief, yet. Coldwalkers that Ian found in former life and still remembered. He called specific names of Coldwalkers who may be on their mission at this moment. The common thing between these people, can you have a guess? I think I know the answer. He listed their names and operation barely. What on earth? Cecilia completely lost her emotional balance like a ship wrecked by a storm. The confusion exceeded her mental capacity. Don't worry, though. I am the only one who knows this, yet. To Cecilia, Ian said this full of confidence. And I don't want to tell others about it. What do you mean? You guys are, what should I say? Ian paused shortly to find a good expression. Emergency food. I am going to arrest them one by one whenever I need to. Coldwalkers who were undercover in the Empire, or who will come into the Empire. To Ian, they were just one of the tools to increase his merit. The merits that he could use whenever he needed. This era was still unstable and war could occupy the country at any moment. Arresting a spy during the war. Such exceptional merit. The analogy of emergency food quite suited them. Just who is he? Cecilia chewed her lips. What a mysterious man he is. The man who knew the list of Coldwalkers clearly. Furthermore, the man who was most likely the enemy of her country. She couldn't calm herself down. Nevertheless, she must do something. The situation didn't allow her to communicate with her home country. She must do something herself. I must decide. As her country ordered to her, this boy must be suppressed alive. The order was an order, and the boy was such a threat. Right after she finishes this situation, she would send an emergency message to her country straight away. To inform that there is a high chance that the identity of all Coldwalkers was compromised. Fortunately, this area was connected to the border. There was a chance to sneak out. If things go ugly, in that case, he must be assassinated. The primary mission objective was kidnapping, the secondary was murder. She had no time for testing. She had to do her best. I have no clue how you know the names. Around Cecilia, fire spheres lit up. 6 spheres as big as a human's head. It must be much more destructive than magic missile. But you shouldn't speak it out, young boy. Just after she finished her word, fire spheres flew to Ian quickly. All 6 spheres were targeting Ian's body. With a shield magic like he just cast before, he wouldn't able to protect himself from it. Mana barrier. However, Ian's response was simple and amazing. Mana barrier, it was the next level of shield magic. Its wall could absorb much more damage than shield magic. Did he just used a mana barrier? Her reaction was natural. Mana barrier was 3rd class magic. Which means that Kid's magical skill level was the same as hers, at least. The report of the conducted mage wasn't a rumor, indeed. Actually, it seemed he was underestimated. Asterisk bong. Bong. Bayaya, asterisk. Fire spheres ruthlessly smashed Ian's mana barrier. The giant explosion noise was echoed in the gymnasium. Since the area was quiet, the noise was sounded louder than usual. People might come to check the gymnasium. By any means necessary, she must finish her job quickly. I need to find a way to draw him out from the barrier first. Cecilia was caught in a hurry. Time was on that boy's side. I guess she is in big trouble. The duel of magicians, it was usually quite boring. People might expect some kind of spectacular magical shows. However, the reality was different. In most cases, they just hide in their defense magic like a turtle and wait for their perfect chance. They wouldn't dare to risk their own life for the stupid magical show. The one who stays focused longer in those boring situations is the winner in most cases. Of course, it was the strategy for ordinary magicians. However, Ian in his former life was different. With his overwhelming destructive magic, he destroyed a mage and barrier at the same time. In a former life, though, I can't do it for now. He didn't have enough mana to cast such a high-class magic. For now, Ian also needed to find a different method. I can't just stay like this. Cecilia was also a 3rd-class magician. She would also able to cast mana barrier. Fortunately, Ian had a plan. In proper expression. I made a plan. When he had seen Cecilia in front of the province castle, he already had expected her to approach him to spy, and that she might be aggressive. So, he prepared something. On the sky of the gymnasium, covered by shadow. Light. Ian made a small light sphere. It was a harmless convenient magic that is usually cast to provide a clear vision in a dark area. Why did he use light magic? Cecilia couldn't understand Ian's choice. Ian and Cecilia both were risking their own life. In this breathtaking situation, did he just use the light magic? I knew you are cold walker. Ian lifted the light sphere to the sky. High, higher, higher and higher. Even when I knew it, I decided to stay here alone. Can you guess why? The light magic drove the shadow from the gymnasium. Suddenly, Cecilia's face turned pale. Numerous ice shards were floating in the sky. Their sharp sides were heading to Cecilia. I also expected you would come to the gymnasium. Ian prepared to greet Cecilia with his masterpiece, the giant trap of gymnasium. Ice spear. As for raining, ice shards started to fall down. Unlike normal rain, it didn't fall randomly. Every single shard had one destination. The destination was Cecilia. Ugh! Cecilia quickly cast mana barrier. Numerous ice shards fell onto her mana barrier. Asterisk clink. Crash. Clink. Cross. Asterisk. It sounded like smashing an aegis with metal. Now the tide turned into Ian's favor. Asterisk crack. Kraak. Krayok, asterisk. Cecilia's barrier started to crack. Even mana barrier had its limitations. But, she might able to recast mana barrier, though. A mage like Cecilia was surely able to recast it easily. But, Ian's ice shards were not his final blow. Phew! Ian gathered his palms. And he started to draw mana between his palms. Rush! He made a fire sphere. Just one sphere. However, its size was unimaginably enormous. As a snowball rolling on the snowfield grew itself, the fire sphere kept getting bigger. Stay right there! The numerous ice shards Ian made on the ceiling of the gymnasium. They were just a feint. He used ice shards to force Cecilia to cast a barrier, so that she wouldn't be able to move. All the steps were planned for this giant final blow. Pyroblast! The giant fire sphere left Ian's hand. The coming of the Crown Prince, 5. Ruoar. The fire sphere moved through the floor of the gymnasium. Cecilia knew the spell very well. Due to its slow flight speed, it normally isn't used for duels. Instead, its power was extreme. She had to jump away to avoid it. If I don't, I will die. The problem was the barrier that she was casting to protect her from the ice shards. While casting the barrier, she couldn't move. She had two choices. Choose to die, or risk her body for a small chance of survival. Cecilia chose, of course, the second choice. She didn't want to die like this. Cancel. The barrier that was nearly wrecked collapsed. As she became free to move, she used her legs to jump as far as she could to avoid the area of effect of the fire sphere. Asterisk PKKKKHT. PKHT. PKKHT, asterisk. The ice shard stabbed her mercilessly. It penetrated her defenseless exposed body. Arg! She couldn't help screaming. From shoulder, side body, arm, and thigh. Not just the feeling of being stabbed, but the feeling of being penetrated struck her whole body. It was an extreme pain that a normal person wouldn't be able to bear. I survived. Nevertheless, Cecilia was sure that she made it. Ice shards didn't stab her vital points. She avoided the area of effect of the fire sphere. Boom! The noise of an enormous explosion shook the whole province castle. The fire sphere which Cecilia avoided had destroyed the outer wall of the province castle. Mana barrier. Cecilia rolled on the floor. Then she recast the mana barrier. Now ice shards in the sky no longer threatened her. Pant. 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 Her wounded body spewed out blood. It covered the whole floor where she laid. But everything was fine for her. People would come soon. They would heal Cecilia. There is no proof. She was satisfied that she survived. There was no proof. The proof of her real identity. She had no idea how that kid knew everything, but she bet that he had no proof. She was so sure about it. She always acted thoroughly. She didn't leave any trails. And people would be more likely to believe me. She was a third-class mage of the Ivory Tower. She sneaked into the tower and pretended to be devoted to them for 11 years. She wouldn't be suspected by the boy's proofless claim. After I recover from my wounds, then later I will. While Cecilia was making her plan for the future. Phew! Ian came closer to her and sat down. There was an empty bottle where he had stood. It was indeed, half elixir. The half elixir that Letio gave to him as a gift. Letio said it would work as soon as he drank it, so Ian had drank it before confronting Cecilia. The result was satisfying. Cecilia was defeated and laid on the floor with a bloody body. There would be some side effect, though. His mana was still beating strongly. I would take some credit this time. After Ian managed to calm down his heart, he spoke quietly. By arresting you. Haha, can you? Of course. Where is the proof? I am quite sure there is nothing I left behind. You are right. The previous time, you didn't leave any clues. Previous time. You won't understand. Previous time? Was he bluffing? Cecilia was caught in an unspeakable fear. The proof even you guys, cold walkers, don't know. Are you kidding me? Calm down. You will see it soon. Later on the situation went as they both expected. What happened? The wall, what? Many crowds who were enjoying the party gathered. They were shocked twice. Once by the shattered wall of the province castle, and another time by the bleeding Cecilia. Cecilia! The other two mages who had come with her ran urgently. With a single look, she had severe wounds. What happened? This wound. By magic. Suddenly two mages looked at each other. There were 5 mages in the Mogrian province. Including those 2 mages with Cecilia, and the conducted mage, Marco. And Marco was absent for Tower Lord's mission. That meant... I did. Everyone's eye focused on Ian. The boy admitted that he destroyed the wall, and wounded Cecilia. There was a short silence. Tell us the details. The heavy low voice ended the silence. The owner of voice was the second Royal Knight Captain, Oliver Raywood. What happened here? Coincidentally, I saw something that the lady over there. Ian paused and looked at Cecilia. Cecilia made a curious face. What kind of nonsense was he about to say? She was talking to a masked man. Hey! By Ian's word, Cecilia sneered. So he chose to speak a lie. There was no proof nor witness. There was no support. It made her sneer. Go on. Whenever she saw me, she tried to kill me. So you wounded her like that. Otherwise, I would have died. It was a story that he couldn't believe. Cecilia was the official third-class mage of Ivory Tower. And did this boy beat her? He heard enough about the rumors of Ian. In the royal palace, and Northern Territory. Everyone was talking about Ian. He was a genius like the first mage. He cast magics without learning. He rescued the great landlord, and guaranteed as eternal guest for the Northern Territory. But still, he couldn't simply believe it. Can you prove it? The story that even Captain Oliver couldn't believe. He questioned as formalities, rather than he sincerely believed the story. It seemed they were trying to check something. Check. Some kind of sign on their body. As Ian paused intentionally. Check her. Captain Oliver ordered straightly. He ordered to check not a just normal person, but Cecilia. Hey Captain! Enough insulting. Did you forget we are the mages of the Ivory Tower? Of course, the mages of the Ivory Tower complained. Most of the knights would not dare to go against 2 third-class mages. However, Oliver Raywood was different. Sururung. Rather, he drew his sword and pointed it at the mages. Other knights would not dare to act like that. Why, you dare? Dare? The old mage's word upset the Captain Oliver. He spoke to them anxiously. Our Highness is here. And such a threatening situation just happened here. And one of the mages of the Ivory Tower is included, so it is my duty to find out what happened here exactly. And you said dare? Did you just say dare? That is. These mages couldn't reply at all. Although they were mages in high rank, they were lower than royal blood. Regardless what they think inside, it was the rule and order of the Empire. Let us heal her first. Do it later after we finish our job here. Oliver reordered. Considering Cecilia's gender, he ordered maids to search her body. Here I met this scary guy again. While looking at face of the captain, Ian recalled his former life. The sword master of the Empire, actually, the sword master of the continent, Oliver Raywood. The loyal knight who served the crown prince until the last. He was killed by mages of Ragnar. At the final battle to protect the crown prince, it was him against the current tower lord and his mages, and he killed 5 men. And all of them were higher than second-class mages. In history, he was just recorded as a traitor, though. The man who reached to the top as a knight. At least, Ian remembered him as it. He must already have achieved a very high level as a swordsman. Even mages couldn't dare to go against him easily. "Did you find anything?" the captain asked the maids. "Sorry sir. We couldn't find out anything." "Are you sure about that?" "We checked her several times, but there were no signs, nothing." Then the 2 mages raised their angry voices. "What did I just tell you? Did you really suspect one of us? We better start to heal her. Right now." However, Oliver didn't listen. He just looked at Ian and asked again. "Did you lie?" "No, sir." After Ian shortly replied, he approached to Cecilia. While people were wondering his action. Yikes! What? Ian's action stunned everyone in there. Men turned their head away, and women didn't know what to do. Not just the maids but the great landlord's wife and even Margaret. Furthermore, even Vanessa, who just came from the dinner hall, was also embarrassed. Here. Ian didn't stop. Rather, he pulled Cecilia's top cloth around her neck, even stronger. Her breasts were revealed. "I don't know what you are saying." "There was only one." Oliver looked at it firmly. He seemed to feel no emotion about it. "Keep looking at it." Now Ian moved his hand to Cecilia's body. This time, Cecilia was also embarrassed. What the hell are you doing?" She was so sure there were no sign. It was not others, it was her own body. If there were some kind of signs, she should have known. At that moment, around here, a small amount of mana was injected to Cecilia's upper body. Precisely, the mana disappeared after it hung around on her skin. Then suddenly a sign appeared. On the upper side of Cecilia's right breast, where the mana had swept away, something was revealed. A mysterious pattern that lighted as blue. People had no idea what that pattern meant. However, they knew what kind of phenomenon it was. Mana. Inscription. It was Cecilia who was shocked mostly. When was the mana inscription tattooed on her body? The tattoo which meant cold walkers. I can't believe it. She had no such memory. She never tattooed a mana inscription. When? Where? How? What did you do? While losing her consciousness, she leered at Ian. He must have used some kind of dirty trick. Otherwise how can it be explained? I saw she was doing something with her hand. It seemed she was controlling mana. Ian started his lie without any hesitation. The lie Cecilia sneered at, now it became trustworthy. Of course she didn't know. Cold walkers had grown up in a special facility. This tattoo was some kind of stigma which were tattooed in there. A stigma which helped managers to manage their young spies. It happened when she was young, so it was natural that she didn't remember. And I heard it from one of the managers. The manager was quite stubborn. He was the high-rank manager of the Cold Walkers. It took a lot of effort to capture him alive. He endured painful torture for a year. Eventually, he talked about it out, though. Do you have any idea of what this pattern is? Oliver asked to other mages. As if the cat got their tongue, they just shook their head. What about you, Mr. Page? Ian shook his head, too. He would better pretend to know nothing more. Oliver was caught deep in thought. He didn't know the meaning of the stigma. However, Ian's words got some support now. The situation led Ian's word to be trusted. It must be inspected in bigger scale. Heal her first. I will interrogate her later. Oliver ordered to his soldiers. He looked at the two mages, and said. Please prepare a mana prison for her. KHMMMM. Mana Prison was the special magical circle of mages. A magical circle was an anti-magic area that interrupted the flow of mana. It was necessary to arrest a mage. Captain. The vice-captain came to Oliver after he finished his order. What is it? Why don't you order to search near the area? You mean we better need to seek the masked man? Yes, so. It's a waste of time. Hey. Oliver rejected the suggestion of the vice-captain. We should not thin our power for meaningless searching. Rather, we should focus our manpower to protect our highness. Don't forget the reason why we came to the Northern Territory. It was a completely Crown Prince-centered decision. And it was a wise decision as his bodyguard. The vice-captain agreed with his point, and he stepped back. Click. Oliver said to Ian after he sheathed his sword. If everything that happened today is true, I will report it to the Highness clearly. It was an indirect expression that Ian would receive the reward. That's what Ian wanted. According to the current Emperor's characteristic, he would ask Ian in a straightforward manner what did Ian want. If it made sense, he would accept Ian's request. In such a situation, Ian had some requests in his mind. Very many requests. The Book of Dragon Chants, 1. As it became deeper in the night, the dinner party had ended and there was only silence left. No more party, no more wine, no more laughing sounds left in there. Extraordinary, indeed. In the province castle, inside the bedroom of the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was recalling the former event while drinking Northern Territory wine. He had thought about it over and over, and the more he thought, the more interested he was. How can that young boy be so powerful? Was he interested in the spy mage? No, he never cared about it. But the fact that he won the duel against Cecilia, that only drew the Crown Prince's attention. I thought his talent was exaggerated. The Crown Prince also knew the meaning of being third class. He heard that most mages wouldn't be able to master second class. However, one of them lost to the boy called Ian. The Crown Prince desired him. The captain on my right side, the boy on my left side. Oliver, who already reached the master level of swordsman. Ian, who contained unfathomable potential in him. What if the Crown Prince managed to make them loyal to him? Wouldn't everyone crawl under his feet? Including those pesky princes in the separated palace, even those arrogant mages of the ivory tower. But how? He never moved or touched someone's heart in his life. He never knew how to manage people. That's right. Like my father. He saw father's way many times. Father used to reward them for their merits. It wouldn't be that hard. There was nothing hard about it, was there? Captain. How can I help you? The boy, bring him here. Oliver understood the intention of the Crown Prince. He ordered other soldiers to bring Ian. I heard you were looking for me, Your Highness. Oh, you came. Welcome. The Crown Prince welcomed Ian with a hypocritical smile. It was a very opposite attitude compared to the first time he met Ian. He changed his attitude dramatically. It seemed he didn't feel any shame about it. The reason I called you was... Yes, I am moved by your valor. Wasn't the spy one of the high mages? But you succeeded in arresting her alive, you made huge merit. Thank you, my lord. The Crown Prince continued his words with more confidence. It seemed he thought about himself that he was playing the role of a powerful king very well. So, I want to reward you specially. Is there any rewards you want to receive? Money, gold, or land, whatever you name, I will listen and reward you. Ian barely stopped himself from sneering. Was he following his father? He was mimicking him very poorly. Well, I don't have anything to ask him for though. It was true. There was nothing to ask the Crown Prince for. Maybe the current Emperor or Tower Lord may fulfill his request though. This prince would only be able to give him money. Well actually, I can ask for something. Suddenly, Ian thought about a proper request. Ian wasn't sure whether the Crown Prince would allow it, but it was worth it to try. Then, you may speak. If you allow me to do so, I want to visit the ruins of the old ivory tower before going to the royal palace. The ruins of the old ivory tower. The ruins of the old ivory tower. It was the ruins where the ivory tower used to be located 100 years before. Unlike the current new ivory tower, it was located very far away from the royal palace. It was such an easy and small request for the Crown Prince. The request he couldn't understand. He expected Ian to request something about money or properties. But what he wanted was visiting the worthless ruin. As he expected, Ian was an innocent kid. Unlike other princes who were young but still who wanted the throne. Well, that is an easy request. It wasn't on the route to the palace. However, it wasn't that far from the original route though. If that's what you want, I will accept. By his order, Ian laughed in his mind. It seemed he would be able to get the thing earlier than he thought. The item which was hidden underground of the ruin of the old ivory tower. The Book of Dragon Chants. The ancient book that Ian found only a few years before Ian died in his former life. The book that was very essential to researching the time-warping magic. Even Ian couldn't understand all of it, but he could understand only a little of its dragon language. The single book that recorded its essence. How many parts would I understand this time? It was natural curiosity as a mage. Ian felt his heart was beating. The tallest tower that was the closest to the sky of Green River. The Ivory Tower, center of magic, treasure house of information. In there, everyone was alerted. Every single mage enrolled in there received the test for the mana inscription. Not only the students of the academy, but also the mages of the Ivory Tower. It was a massive scaled test due to the event at the Northern Territory. There was nothing that was revealed clearly. We don't even know the meaning of the inscription, do we? Furthermore, the man with mask hadn't been arrested. So the only information we have is the young witness. Including Haybert, archmages of the Ivory Tower were there. They urgently gathered in their council to discuss two serious topics. On the other hand, she devoted herself to the Ivory Tower and Empire for a long time. She may be accused unjustly, or trapped. Furthermore, the Crown Prince was there, wasn't he? You know how he dislikes the Ivory Tower. The most urgent was, of course, Cecilia. At the Ivory Tower, one of them was suspected as spy of another country, or hostile group. Furthermore, the spy was a third-class mage. In a worst-case scenario, the trust in the Ivory Tower would fall off to the ground. Hence, until the moment we investigate the issue with our very hand, the Ivory Tower will ignore all the suspicion for Cecilia. It is an order as Tower Lord. That was a typical reaction from the Ivory Tower. It was the group that was always biased to their members. The group which was united with proud and band of mages. They were strong, but few. So they had to gather tight as much as they could. There were always traps and attacks on them who held such strong power. To be safe from numerous attacks, in addition, to overwhelm others underneath their feet. It was the identity of the Ivory Tower. And, the witness of this event, who you may have heard about already. Suddenly, mages opened their eyes wide. Even for them, Ian was an interesting and mysterious man. How do we define his status? Maybe, the existence of Ian would be more than just an interesting topic to some mages. Ian was such a hot topic in the Ivory Tower at the moment. According to the information we have collected, the magical level of this boy would be at least Master of Second Class, maybe more than that. At Haybert's claim, everyone was started to make noise. Since they had heard rumors, they had expected it. However, the official confirmation of the Tower Lord contained different levels of reliance compared to the individual expectation. The level of Ian's skill wasn't the only problem. The fact that he was able to control the magic he never learnt was the biggest problem. Hence, the Ivory Tower will operate a higher quality investigation. The investigation, to reveal everything about Ian. The power of archmages will be needed. Figure that out. Did he really never learn magics from others? Was he really raised as a normal kid? What sort of environment he used to be raised in? Who are his parents? With all of the power of the ivory tower, we will find out everything. So, we require your help. As they agreed, everyone nodded. If there is anything suspicious, they need to find out everything. They already had an example of Cecilia. However, if there were no problems after the investigation, which means if all the suspicions on Ian Page were revealed to be incorrect, then we must admit it. If it revealed he was truly born a genius, they would have to admit that the boy Ian had unfathomable talent. He was a genius whose talent can be compared to the first mage. So that we can make our future plan. The plan to grow the kid, the first mage, as our ally, and as a loyal tool for the ivory tower. The Tower Lord only mentioned the ivory tower, not the Empire. He didn't call Ian a member of the ivory tower, but he called him a loyal tool. None of these mentions were misspoken by the Tower Lord. We wouldn't be able to control him by simply just giving him a present and doing him a favor. We need to build our own way, the only way that the ivory tower can do. The mages who were attending the council nodded. Fortunately, Ian was still young. Although he had power, he shouldn't have matured yet. To the ivory tower, they thought that is their advantage. We will able to control such a young boy easily, won't we? The Book of Dragon Chants, 2. Clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. The sky through the window of a carriage was clear indeed. Synchronizing to the horses' stepping sound, night insects sang their songs. 22 days had passed since he had said goodbye to the Mogrian province. He made many good memories in his hometown. He also met numerous people in the Mogrian castle, the veteran knight Eric, the novel-writing soldier, Luca. It was definitely different from his former life. Most of all, Ian looked at his mother. It would be her first time to travel outside in her life. With curiosity, she enjoyed the outside view of the carriage. The precious result, which he never had in his former life. I have new people on my side. Next to her, the alchemist Letio was seated. His son, Douglas, was next to him. In his former life they were the man who had died and the boy who would become his enemy later. They were heading to the royal palace while all riding the huge carriage together. Thanks to that, Ian became more friendly to them. Not bad. But how long would this peace stay? He didn't know when it would end, but he knew one thing. Peace was the thing which should be redeemed by himself. Whether forcing it from the outside or from the inside. He needed the power to control his surroundings. Dear me! How did I forget that? Vanessa's voice drew Ian from his deep thinking. What's wrong, Mrs.? Letio asked first before Ian asked. Recently, he talked to her often. Actually, they became quite close to each other. Hey! Look at this man! Ian realized they both were around a similar age. Of course, Letio might be older than her by 4 or 5 years. Was Ian reacting sensitively? The lady gave me a letter, she asked me to read it while I'm traveling. Vanessa pulled out a letter from her bag. It must be the letter from the daughter of the great landlord, Margaret. I don't know how to read. Ian, would you? Just the moment Ian was about to receive the letter. I will read it for you, I can read the words. Would you, then? Haha, no problem at all. Letio's health had been restored recently. Not only his characteristics, but his appearance was getting rejuvenated. His white hair was quite suited for his face. But... okay, let's see. Hey! Ian blew away the letter from his hand. It gently fell into his hand. It may have been blown away by the wind. Ian quickly made a nonsense excuse. What were they going to do when the mage said his words were true? Regardless of how Letio saw him or how his mother saw him or even how Douglas saw him. Ian briefly read the letter with his eyes. Why? What is it about? It didn't contain anything important. It wasn't filled with hateful words, either. There were some parts that concerned Ian, but he decided to read only the part related to his mom out loud. She said that she was very sorry. Sorry? Sorry for what? Sorry that she rebuked you when you were working as a kitchen maid. Ignoring you when you visited the province castle with me. Everything she did wrong to you. Ian never lied. She listed everything in detail. Although Ian summarized it in a few sentences, in the original letter, Margaret described it in close detail. Her memorizing skill was surprising. Honestly, I would call it a talent. Even Ian wouldn't able to memorize such stories between other people. Unlike her appearance, she had good memorization skills. Or maybe she just remembered her naughty teases. It seemed that's another good guess about her. Whatever, she seemed to have mellowed and realized her bad attitude, so all is good. Ian didn't know when he would meet her next, but she will have changed a lot. Different from her current status, and from her former life. Well, she didn't need to feel sorry for that. Was there anything else written? That's all. She wished you good luck too. Really? Is that all? Yes. Vanessa looked at Ian suspiciously. At that moment, the carriage slowed down and stopped. It seemed they had arrived at the palace. Mr. Page. The Imperial Guard called Ian. We have arrived. After that everyone left the carriage. The first thing they saw was a tower with an ivory color, of course. They could see the old ivory tower and its surroundings. The stone tower which was built with rough and unsharpened rocks. Compared to the ivory tower of the royal palace, which was built very carefully with the finest shaped stone, it looked very different. For 2 days, we will stay near the slave village. During the days, the Crown Prince allowed you to tour the old ivory tower freely. The village which had an offensive name, Slave Village. Ian knew this village very well. For the newbie adventurers they would think why the heck did they name their village like that, but the name represented its history and foundation. It was the village where slaves of the ivory tower lived. A long time ago the old ivory tower was filled with mages. At that time, people who worked for the tower formed a small-sized village. Even after the ivory tower moved near the royal palace, people stayed in the village, and now their descendants lived there independently. Its name is still odd though. Their descendants named their own town voluntarily. No outsider would be able to argue about it. And other followers come to me, I will lead you to your place to stay. In the village, the Crown Prince was talking with the village headman. It sounded like they were having a good time, as they laughed a lot. Although most of the laughs came out from the Crown Prince, the village headman smiled often. We never expected you to come to this old rural village. It's our honor and blessing which will stay for decades. Ha ha ha. You make me smile. Right, how's your life? Actually, we had a year of bad harvest. Recently, Ian suddenly realized that he was quite unique. The Crown Prince, the fool. To normal people, he is not bad. Not nobles, mages, nor other princes but normal people. To normal people, he acted as a normal man. Of course, it wasn't due to his hidden talent as a good king, nor warm hearts that worried his people. Only the people who seemed lower than him. Only the people who really respected and were afraid of him. Only the people who would do everything as he ordered. He may not have felt it from them. Inferiority. Of course, the fact that he regarded his people as lower than him didn't make him a good person. But still, it was better than nothing. Better than doing his mad things to everyone. Maybe, that's the reason he acted nicely to Ian suddenly. Ian wasn't a member of the Ivory Tower yet, he was of low birth. Furthermore, Ian asked him that visiting the ruin was his wish. Since I accepted his request and brought Ian to here, Ian would be so honored. The Crown Prince might be thinking in that way. Maybe he was unlucky that he was born with royal blood. This could be the reason the Emperor tried to always cover for him. He may think the same as Ian. By the way, the tower. Ian was now granted 2 days. During these 2 days, he had to go underground to the ivory tower. Since there were a few traps installed, it would take him some time. He needed to arrange his time well. "Excuse me, boss," Douglas said while tapping Ian. Ian was regretting that he allowed him to call him boss. Ian didn't expect him to keep calling him boss until now. "When will you visit the ivory tower?" "Why do you ask?" I want to tour around there as well." It seemed Ian must visit there during midnight. As Ian decided, he spoke. "Let's visit there tomorrow." "Really? With me?" "Yes." "Wow. Thank you." He respected Ian as if he was talking to elders. It seemed now he realized the position of the mage. Well, even in his former life, he never acted rude to him, though. "And Captain, take this." Douglas handed Ian something. It was a flask with red liquid. "What is it?" "Shhh. It's a healing potion that I made." "Healing potion?" It was a basic level potion of alchemy. But, it wasn't that easy to be made by such a young kid. "My daddy told me not to show this to anyone, but I give you this especially." As he was sharing a big secret, he acted carefully. "Thank you." Ian hid the potion into his bag quickly. So he is a genius indeed. It seemed he was doing something while looking at the illustrated book. However, Ian never expected him to complete his potion this quickly. Letio's concern was understandable. "Mr. Page and other followers, please use this house." They arrived at the hut with the guidance of the soldier. It wasn't that great a house, but it was one of the best houses in the village. "Have a good rest." The night went deeper. During the night, the soldiers moved quickly. Many camps were built surrounding the village. To the north side, the camps of the Imperial soldiers. To the south side, the camps of the Second Royal Knights were built. As they were veterans, they built them quickly. "Sneaking out secretly will be my first obstacle." By watching the veteran soldiers work, Ian clicked his tongue. He had to save his mana as much as he can. "Let's do it slowly." Slowly. A few hours later, deep in the middle of the night, even the night guard was dozing off. Ian's ruin exploration had started. Actually, it would be a dangerous place for exploration. The Book of Dragon Chants, 3. It was a complete coincidence that Ian found the Book of Dragon Chants. After he had retired, he toured the continent, during the return to his hometown. Without a plan, without making preparations for war. Just a random walking trip, filled with fresh air and under the stars. The old ivory tower was just on his route. "I used to want to visit here in my life." In the past, Ian found a hidden wine storage under the old ivory tower. The storage was chilled by a freezing spell. Thanks to that, the wines in there were tastily fermented. "I can't just leave it there." After he took some wines which were in a fine condition, he decided to dispel the freezing spell on the storage. Its power source might have worked for 100 years. Enormous amounts of mana must have been injected to power the spell. It was safer to dispel the magic to prevent further unexpected accidents. Then I found something. There was a lower space under the storage. It figured out that the storage hadn't been chilled by magic. Of course, there was no source of mana as well. It was cold energy coming from far underneath that was chilling the storage. It's the same as before. The wine storage that he now visited earlier than in his former life. It had stayed the same as in his memory. Chilling air, magic-sealed wooden wine containers. The wide area was filled with containers. Most of them were empty containers. I don't know who made it, but he must be an alcohol lover. Ian approached the large-sized wine container, which was located in the center. It was so huge that it might be able to contain 10 grown men in there. It was fixed to the ground. Tong tong. Ian gently knocked on the large wine container. It echoed back as it sounded hollow. Like in his former life, it has a big size, but contained no wine in it. Bang! There was no need for hesitation. He smashed the container with his magic. Its insides were then revealed. It wasn't an ordinary wine container. It only looked like a wine container. In reality, it had no bottom. Instead, the rocky floor of the ivory tower was revealed. He hid the entrance quite smartly. In the past, Ian thought the entrance must be hidden by some high-level technology. For instance, hidden by magic or a magic-operated door. Just like the entrance of the wine storage, he expected some entrance with magic. And I figured out that the entrance was under the container. As those words were said, the foot of the candle was dark. He was absent-minded. It caused him to feel ashamed of himself until now. Grr! Ian strongly pushed the rocky floor to side. He enhanced his strength with mana. With freezing air, a staircase was revealed. It was so small that he needed to squeeze himself inside to go down further in his former life. Not this time. Since Ian had the body of young boy, he didn't need to. Maybe this was the first time that he was thankful to have a young body. Splash! The water under the staircase welcomed Ian first. The underground was invisibly dark. A single light orb wasn't enough. Light. After he made a few more light orbs, he was finally able to find the way. Although he had been here before, he couldn't find the way as he was blinded. Furthermore, in a deeper area, the thing would come out. Gargoyle. After passing the narrow aisle, he arrived at a round room. There were no further paths in the wide room. In the middle of it, there was a statue. In his former life, when he first saw that gargoyle statue, he was freaked out. He thought it was just a statue. Who would have imagined that there was a gargoyle under the ivory tower? In addition, he was able to recognize one important truth. There was no mage who could tame the gargoyle. Which meant the underground wasn't made by the ivory tower. From the wine storage to these gargoyles. After the mages moved their tower, someone probably came here and made it. Not only in his former life, this time as well. Asterisk crack. Grr, asterisk. The gargoyle statue started to move while removing the dust on it. Its surface would rupture soon and reveal its terrible appearance. This time, he was prepared. Kark. With its strange grow, a grey-colored gargoyle jumped out. It leered at Ian as it came dribbling towards him. It seemed the gargoyle decided to eat him. Its eyes were purple. Its eyes were shining like amethysts. Ian heard that its eyes are a very rare alchemy ingredient. With its appearance, Ian could admit that. In my former life, I couldn't look at it clearly. In the past, he was freaked out and used too much force. An unimaginable magic that he wouldn't dare to use with his current body. Naturally, he didn't have any time to see it in detail. Not just destroyed it, he turned it into dust. Letio will like it. Luckily, Ian also had his alchemist this time. He might brew some nice elixir for him. Aqua Ball. A basic magic like fireball. A few aqua balls were revealed around him. It wasn't that useful against a gargoyle. It was just simple water balls, while its opponent had stone-hardened skin. The power is not always the answer. The current Ian didn't have enough power to destroy the gargoyle with a single magic. He didn't drink the half elixir either. So, he needed to increase the efficiency of his spells. Aqua Ball. Numerous water balls smashed the gargoyle. Of course it didn't receive damage from it. The gargoyle just got wet from it. Aqua. Kark. It rushed towards Ian while screaming. It seemed Ian's water balls made it angry. Nevertheless, Ian just kept shooting water balls. Aqua balls were reloaded endlessly. Kark. Ian avoided its attack like a snake. Now the gargoyle started to stretch its wings. It looked mad now. I wouldn't be able to avoid it. There was a clear limitation of magically enhanced body. It wasn't impossible to avoid the charge of a gargoyle with its wings. The gargoyle knew this as well by its instinct. Ian moved to his second plan. K-A-A-A-A-A-A. It cried with confidence. The confidence that the little young boy would become its food with this attack. It started to charge with its wings. Its speed was dramatically increased. An Ian. Ice wall. An ice wall suddenly erupted out of nowhere. Thanks to the cold energy nearby, the speed of spell casting was twice as fast. Did he make it to shield him from the charge of the gargoyle? No, he didn't mean to. He didn't make a wall in front of him. Instead he made it underneath him. Smash! Its body smashed the ice wall. It was strong enough for its upper body to pass the ice wall. In another point of view it was stuck in the ice. It wouldn't able to move out for a while. Whoa, I would die if I was standing behind the wall. Ian softly jumped down from the top of the ice wall. He could only see the butt of gargoyle. Satisfied, he focused mana on each of his hands. Asterisk spark. Spark. Spark, asterisk. Lightning started to dance on each of his hands. He wet the gargoyle for this moment, didn't he? Lightning. A powerful white lightning stream struck the gargoyle. Actually, it struck the whole ice wall, including the gargoyle. The gargoyle's soft inner skin was hidden under its hardened outer skin. And there was nothing better than lightning to burn its inner skin. Carb-rock. It screamed for a while. When it stopped screaming, its dead body laid on the ground completely. Phew! Its burnt smell filled the air. It certainly wasn't a nice smell. It caused him to feel nauseated. It should be open now. According to Ian's memory, a new aisle should be revealed after killing the gargoyle. More precisely, at the center where the gargoyle stood petrified before, a white hole had appeared under the statue base. It should be same this time. Asterisk thud. Thud. CRRRRR, asterisk. As he expected. A hole started to appear at the center. It's almost there. It will be there under the hole. But he needed to do something before going down. This is the important part. Holding its leg, Ian drew the corpse of the gargoyle near the hole. It was as heavy as its size. Thanks to help of mana, he could move its body. Its eyes first. It didn't seem to be an enjoyable process, but he had no choice. It was a precious ingredient. Taking a breath, he took out its eyes. They were as hard as amethyst. Not bad. It was a much easier process since its texture was stone-like. If it was squishy, Ian would feel sick. After that, Ian restarted moving the corpse. Then he pushed it away into the hole. It fell for a long time since the hole was deep. A few seconds later. Asterisk bang. Bong. Ba-bam, asterisk. Sounds of explosions were heard. It was just the beginning. Not only explosions, many other noises were heard. The sound of lightning, freezing and so on. Each sound recalled some great magics. He installed stupidly many traps. It was the sound of mana trap. In his former life, Ian dealt with it by himself. There were no problems since he had used the greatest shield magic, but right now he wouldn't be able to endure it. It seems to have ended. The noises stopped. There might be a few traps still unactivated, but he would able to take care of it. Feather fall. The Book of Dragon Chats was closed now. And a few useful items. All of them would be staying under the hole. Ian jumped down the hole with slow falling magic. The finest investment. Where have you been at this early morning? It was quite early in the morning and everyone was still sleeping. Except, Letio, who was standing at the door of the hut and greeted Ian. He was a man who didn't sleep much. Oh, you woke up quite early. My previous life trained me to do so, haha. Letio made a smile to break this awkward situation. Then, he looked at the Ian's bag interestingly. What is about that bag? Ah, I have something for you. After Letio's question, Ian started to sift through his bag. Soon, he pulled out violet-colored stuffs and put them on the table. 2 pieces which looked alike amethysts. What is that? Eyes of gargoyle. Hick! Letio inhaled short breath with surprise. Eye of gargoyle. He never saw it in real, but he knew the value of it very well. His reaction was natural as an alchemist. To alchemists, it was valued as much as an artifact to a mage. Truly is it? I pulled it out with my very hand, it can't be fake. Did you, pulled it yourself? Did that mean Ian had hunted a gargoyle? Where? It was very rare ingredient since it wasn't a commonly found monster normally. Where the heck did he find it? This boy, Ian, had sneaked out, and when he returned, he chucked out eyes of gargoyle all of a sudden. How mysterious a boy he was. Letio started to feel more suspicious of Ian, more than before. Is this can be used to brew elixirs? I don't know that much detail of its usage. Hold on a second. Letio rapidly pulled out and searched through his illustrated book. He always treated and held it like it was a treasure box. It says even simply swallowing it as raw will works as an elixir. In addition, if a taker has a mana heart, it will make his mana more dense. That was a good news to Ian. The quantity of a mana pool was important, but also the density of mana was quite important to a mage. Even with the same magical spell, a mage who had denser mana could yield a stronger spell result. But I don't like to swallow it raw though. Firstly, it was too big to swallow by single bite. Secondly, it was hard as a jewel. Thirdly, it was once the eyes of a monster. Ian wanted different way to consume it. And there are quite many ways to brew a potion with eye of gargoyle. Let's see, the best elixir that can be brewed with it is. That was a relief. There was a way to brew it to some potion. Ian drank a water in the cup, on the table. He felt a small sense of excitement. The best elixir, hey! In former life, he didn't have many chance to use elixirs. He had drunken them a few times, but only after he already grew up and reached a high level of magic. When he was young enough to receive benefits of elixirs fully, he only allowed to drink basic elixirs which were supported by the academy. Ah, I found it! Soon, Letio found the best recipe for brewing epic quality elixir with the eye of gargoyle. While showing Ian the section, Letio said, 5 breaths of red dragon. What an immense name, isn't it? 5 breaths of red dragon was a name of the elixir. Well, it was dramatic name, indeed. As its name, it requires a lot of crazy ingredients. Look at these ingredients. I wonder is it even possible to brew? Letio pointed ingredients section of it. Indeed, it was an assemble of such precious ingredients. Even Ian, who wasn't good about alchemist, heard many of their names. Eye of gargoyle, root of mandragora, leaf of ambrosia, blood of ogre. And there were plenty more ingredients on the lists which Ian never heard of it. I showed it to you since it was one of the best elixir. But, I don't think it's possible. As you can see, there are no exact required amount of ingredients, right? It means even my ancestors failed to brew it, to say nothing of me. Letio knew his limit very well. Even if he acquired those ingredients, he couldn't guarantee that he can brew this great elixir successfully. He would waste these precious ingredients for nothing. Where I think I can collect these ingredients? Ian thought, on the other way. It seemed he can obtain it eventually. Of course it would take long, but he needed a talented alchemist like Douglas anyway, to brew such artifact-level elixir. There would be enough time for Douglas to grow enough to support Ian with his powerful talent. I will get those ingredients for you. What? But as I told you. I'm not saying that I will bringing those immediately. It will take some time. Until then, how about do research about it? Researching was a deal between you and me, Do you remember? Yes. Letio made a deal with Ian. Ian promised to let him survive from mana addiction and ultimate treatment for it, while Letio research custom elixirs for Ian. With my skill it may takes longer than you think. Honestly, it may impossible. Please consider that. I don't mind how many years will it take. I won't pressure you about it. Nevertheless, Letio seemed unconfident. Ian needed some new topics to encourage him. And Douglas. Ian slowly mentioned the name. Letio's most precious person, Douglas. He seems quite interesting with alchemy. Recently, yes he does. There must be special reason. Without further explanation, Letio already knew the reason. He must be desperate to help his father and let him survive. To brew a treatment by his own hand, on the day when the render flower became usable. I heard that alchemy is your family business for ages. Douglas must inherit some talent through your blood. But he's still young. He made a cure potion, I saw it. With Ian's confession, Letio was surprised. A few days ago, Letio was amazed by his son's talent. Recently, his son looked up the illustrated book a few times, then suddenly he made a basic cure potion by himself. I never expected him to brew a potion without any help of measuring tools. Even basic potion needed exact measuring. If not, the potion will be effectless. But, Douglas measured the amounts required of it simply with his own sense. It was impossible to happen in Letio's ken. As I know, alchemists are treated very well. Furthermore, there is a special academy for alchemy in the royal palace, isn't there? Indeed, a talented alchemist was treated very well. As Ian said, there was a special academy to educate talented alchemists. It was worth it to educate them. And wouldn't it mean their future were quite bright? Letio must have had a fine life until he suffered from mana addiction. With this amount, Ian sifted through the bag again. This time, he pulled out a few of the finest diamonds. You won't need to worry about financial issue. It would be enough to educate Douglas. Where did you get all these? A sudden rain of jewels. And every single of them had the best qualities. Letio couldn't help himself to be stunned. I'm considering an investment. What sort of investment? For all researches for Letio, and Ian looked at the inside of the hut. He could see Douglas' face, who were still sleeping innocently. The talent of Douglas. With Ian's suggestion, Letio closed his eyes. For a while he spoke nothing as he thought deeply. It was about a future for his son. He needed a time to think. The cure he made. Honestly, I was surprised as well. Letio broke the long silence. I could see some talent on him. But sir, it was an basic of basic potion. It didn't require any complex measuring skills. Did you know that? Yes, I do. Then you must know it as well. It never guarantees that Douglas will become great alchemist. Did you know that? Yes, I do. And you saying you want to invest on his talent which is yet uncertain. Well, that's the basic rule of investment. Ha! Letio sighed due to his worries. Of course, it was such a sweet suggestion. Not just lengthening his life, Ian also suggested supporting Douglas. He may bow to Ian with full of thanks. But it will decide the future life of Douglas. I must consider it carefully. He might risk his own son's life. He already suffered enough by mages. Mages were untrustworthy. What if Ian couldn't get the elixir he wanted? Not just Letio himself, but even Douglas failed to brew it. Then Letio couldn't know the result. Even Ian shouldn't be trusted fully. But nevertheless, he couldn't decide easily. The suggestion of Ian, those jewels were precious enough to provide Douglas to receive every benefits and educations which were allowed to non-noble people. Furthermore, his general life quality must be increased. Wouldn't it be better for Douglas? He never considered things like this carefully. Douglas was his everything. Like most of parents in the world. The more I experience you, the more I don't think you are just young boy. He mumbled while shaking his head. He made a decision after the sun arose completely. I have no idea what kind of secret you have. But... Letio continued his word while taking the jewels quickly. Keep your promise. Even if I failed you, and even if Douglas won't be a great alchemist. Well, of course, he will be a great alchemist. I am sure my boy will. Anyway. As Ian analyzed before, he spoke a lot when he felt comfortable and relieved.